Well, I don't see it.
Oh, give it a second. Give it a second.
There we are.
I have the faith. Someone has to.
It sounds alright to me. Sounds alright to me.
Real
Holy shit, people are in chat already. That's never happened.
Hey!
Damn. Hey.
Hello.
There it is. Yeah, it looks good.
Bet you've never seen us before, eh?
I know.
Oh, do you know what I should have done? I should have added the Twitch chat on the screen for the VOD.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell that this is our first rodeo?
Exactly.
Well, that's why you call this the test.
Yes.
First. So.
Just lovely podcast from three bearded beauties.
It's like the sort of small, medium, end, you know?
Yeah. It's like, hang on, like the hair even gets longer as well. It's fantastic.
I forgot you actually had long hair, Doug.
I know, because I have it tied back all the time. Like, I don't think I've ever had it down on stream before.
Not that I can ever remember.
No, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Tell a lie. I've had it down once on stream to prove a point. So
There we go. So do we have in chat? We've got Patrick and Meds. Patrick in with the Prime sub. Thank you very much for that. So there's no real structure to what it is we're doing right now. We don't have like a script around the front of us. We're just gonna ramble and chat shit about how 2021's Metacritic scores are a wee bit dodge.
One could say whack.
Would dodge be the right whack? Weird? Crazy?
out of sync.
Yeah, a bit unusual.
Fucky
Fucky
yeah,
Wucky. I like that one. We'll go Fucky Wucky.
Now, in the last 5 days, I switched back from user score to meta score, and it switched to fucking tops. What is this?
I suppose for the purposes of the YouTube video and such, assuming this is going on YouTube afterwards, we should probably give some form of introduction because, well, Twitch chat know who we are. YouTube people may not.
No, that's a good
Also
point.
Real Patrick says fucky wucky.
It's you're only about a minute behind on that one, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do the cardinal sin here and just get my get the chat on stream while you guys take your introductions away.
Well, I guess I'll start. Hi, I'm Dark Duck. I do video editing as part of the Atro team, and I'm Duck Wackington in the city. It's really fun. Got loads of characters. Spare some you fuck. Sorry. Getting totally derailed by a homeless character asking for change in a chat. That's beautiful stuff.
Day in and day out, nothing changes.
Absolutely not. But yeah, that's what I do. I make videos. I'll probably be editing this one. I'm probably insulting myself right now about my own editing skills somewhere in this video. But yeah.
Remember, you said it, not us.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea at the time, type thing.
Probably. Who knows what's going to happen?
Jesus, spare some food.
General hummus.
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
Got a wee bit of chat going on there.
Hey, Lyles. Why didn't you introduce yourself in the most professional way that I did?
The most professional way you did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know how to do that. I can say that I'm part of the administration team of AtroCity and Steve's favorite. Duh, come on now. We're both Steve's favorite. We wouldn't.
Everybody tries to be my favorite. I don't really understand like what the goal is here. For those of you that don't know on YouTube, I'm Steve. I'm the owner of Atro. I say that like it gives me some sort of mad power trip, obviously. When really all it means is I'm responsible for paying the bills at the end of the day. Everybody else does all the work, and I just pretend to be busy. It's
for those of you on YouTube, you might recognize him as the guy who blew up all of those cars.
Yeah, blew up a lot of cars.
And spawned about 50 boats.
TikTok was funny that I made. I was like, I think you need one more.
A man who will rear-end a police officer by just talking to his Twitch chat. That's who you'll recognize him as on YouTube.
Some of the stuff, like, it's... you couldn't get away with that in real life and stuff, you know? Could you imagine? Sorry, officer, I didn't mean to crash the car.
I was talking to my Twitch followers.
I was chatting to Twitch chat. There's no law against that, right?
Yeah, you would you'd have your pilot's license revoked real quick.
Oh yeah.
Right, we're gonna need to add a background onto this chat so it can be seen. So I think
so.
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab an image I happen to have.
Oh yeah.
And we'll just... That's a GIF, Steve. That's not an image. I didn't realise that's a GIF. We'll just leave that up there for a second while I scan my computer for another image that actually works just fine.
So good. That GIF is magic.
I do have the texture I use for the Mayan table.
Oh yeah.
It's probably not the immediate go-to.
You want to be Duck's favorite? Just bring me some bread.
I just watched you run away from a pat on the back. That is true.
Yeah, you did. You can't be my favorite if you don't want to get patted on the back. Just saying. Trying to give you props and you were like, no, don't touch me. Again, if you don't understand any of this, I suggest joining the Discord, getting whitelisted, coming in the city, and then you'll just find out.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Good bit of fun and all that jazz. Do you know what? I may as well just do at this point. I should just grab a random ass, like... Just got to paint and make a coloured box and then go, there we go, that'll do.
Oh. Paint's coming out.
One could just throw a... Oh, what's going on? That's an ad right there, big dog.
That's alright, we've got an ad going on.
Is it with method of...
I don't know if it's different for everyone else, but what's in your wallet?
I don't know. I got Pixel 6. That's what my ad is.
There we go, guys. Can you spam up chat just for a wee second? Fill this up. That's a wee bit better, isn't it? We'll just do it this way. That seems to be the...
Aha, there we go.
Going. There we go. See?
You were the chosen one.
You were supposed to destroy the Sith.
Not join them.
If we're going to talk about that, we can talk about how the Sith might not actually have been bad.
Oh, we go in there. We go in there.
I'm just saying. I'll throw that out there, but the Sith, if you look at both sides, was the Sith really bad?
Oh, yes, but there is also the fact that the Jedi weren't particularly squeaky clean, were they? Massive
Which
hit.
is also true. So were both sides good or bad?
Oh no, the Sith were definitely assholes. It's just that the Jedi were just pompous, uptight, all that. This is not the conversation we came to have, but we're having
this, isn't it? But
No,
it seems to be.
But that's the point of the podcast. Talk about anything and everything.
Well, I mean, the title says Metacritic score discussion. Unless the Jedi have an opinion on that,
I'm pretty sure the Star Wars game is in here somewhere. So just saying.
it might be. Tell you what, they could force an opinion, couldn't they?
Wait, when does the comedy start?
Everyone asks that.
So was anyone miss anything in chat? Is anyone running the piss? No.
See, someone gets it. They said the Sith are cool. That's all I'm saying.
Sith are cool though, like they're cool until they get to the level of getting like fucked up, I think. You know, like I don't know if that makes them more cool or less cool, but it's like see when you go back to like episode 3 and you've got like Anakin and he's like prime blue lightsaber still.
Yeah.
He's killing younglings. Have you ever seen that clip? Have you actually sat and watched it properly? I think I've shown it to you, Doug. It might have been yourself. But you actually see Ewan McGregor in there, and he goes to killing younglings. And he does this. And the reason he does this is because he's pissing himself laughing, and they could not get the take.
Nice.
And every time you watch him
I always
pass, you
thought that
just
was
see
because
Obi-Wan.
he was like disgusted at the situation. I did not actually know that.
No, he's covered. But see when you watch it, you'll see. In fact, you know what?
Wasn't it that like the kid just? Yeah, he was. They had to scare him, and apparently he cried after that take. Like the take that got into the film, that little kid cried.
Shall we use our newfound power to discuss said clip before we get into the meat and potatoes of this? We can check out our new scene transitions.
Oh, let's
Cool
see
until
those.
they bring a crying little. I think it's beat by an unturned Jedi.
So this
It's
is
not wrong, though.
this is the clip in
Ooh.
question.
Look at it.
And if you watch Ewan McGregor's face, I wish we had a better quality one. That might be better. Right. Watch his face.
Okay.
You can totally see it.
Yeah, he's really trying.
You gotta give it to him. He's holding it back.
Like right there, you see it. It's like
Yeah, he's holding it back hard. He's.
Oh, that's good.
Never actually noticed that.
There's like apparently though, like that the little kid, the little one that Anakin is with. I can't remember who it was, but somebody is just off shot, and they shout something at the kid, and that's why he goes "Whoa," and jumps back because somebody's actually scared him. Oh, there's a better version of the clip on media and Discord.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look at this.
See.
Oh my god, it's that clip. I know this clip. That's fine.
Hang on. I don't think I've seen this before.
Yeah, somebody edited this. I've seen this.
Oh, hold on. I need to do a wee bit of audio tweakage here. Bear with me just a second. Ian, thank you very much for the sub. Advanced options.
Do you know what that clip actually reminds me of?
Hmm.
It reminds me of Star Wars Kid. Did any of you ever see that?
I've seen that before. That was doing the rounds for a long time. Right, let's flip this around and watch this this clip here. See how we go.
That's messed up.
Bang.
That does look like fun though.
It does. It looks like a lot of fun.
See, that's somebody that got bullied in high school, and he's like, I can finally beat everyone.
Haha, now they're the small ones.
Yeah.
Like that kid hanging on to it for dear life. Like, no!
Oh, there it is. There's a force block.
Boom. Wow.
Wait, what? Shut up. There we go. Right, so shall we take off what we're actually here to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, we've already done 4 hours of technical procrastination.
Yeah, can we just take a moment to appreciate the sheer last minute and lateness of this whole thing just being kind of thrown together at a last minute's notice.
What are you on about? We always planned to put it out this late. It was just
Yeah. It's half eight somewhere, right?
Oh god. But yeah, no, we thought, or rather I thought, what a cool little topic to talk about would be the best games of 2021 as looked at by Metacritic. But turns out that list was all kinds of fucked up.
It's an understatement.
Completely screwed up. So what we've done is we've compared them with the Metacritic score version and the player review score version, and you get two totally different lists. So we filtered this for the last 90 days on all platforms, and that we have two versions of a list: the one from the Metacritic score, the one from the user review score, just so that we can find out, I guess, where the disparity is, you know? What reviewers think versus what people think. And it's already weird.
It's interesting to go by all platforms because, I mean, first off, you can, we're, without really dancing around the topic too much, we're almost talking about the difference between the various platforms. Like someone playing a Switch, for example, might be playing something like Tetris, right? And it might be amazing because it works really well for the handheld. And like, Switches are really popular, Tetris is really popular, and suddenly you've got this game that, let's be honest, Tetris can't cost millions of dollars to make. I would be very surprised if it was anywhere near close to that. But you've got this game that maybe takes, you know, a couple of $100,000 to crank out another version of Tetris or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden, it's now, well, it's top 5 on a list somewhere. But then you compare that to something like, let's use GTA 5, for example. GTA 5 on the PS5, if and when it releases. You know, okay, it's the third time it's been released, and I think there's a discussion there maybe in the future for like re-releasing the same shit all the time. But the the fact that you could spend $150 million on a game, I'm sure that was the budget for GTA 5 off the top of my head, and be shunned aside by a $100,000 Tetris game on a handheld is just ludicrous. But does that arguably mean that one game is better than the other? The whole ranking system for a game is just nonsense. That's kind of what I said with it.
Tetris cost to produce?
Well, off the top of my head?
Yeah, if you just rambled off a number.
50 quid and 2 pints. Maybe.
I was gonna say, like, someone came to me and said, Steve, build a Tetris game, I'll give you, fuck man, I'd build it for $2,000. How hard is it? I shouldn't say that because we all know what happens when you say that.
That the Tetris setup was close to 80 million.
80 million?
I don't know. I don't see how that is for a video game. I don't understand that one. That has to be a movie. There is no way that is a game.
What's that?
Just to look up how much it costs to make Tetris. Like the development towards it.
What about Muck? I don't know. I actually don't. I've never heard of Muck.
I've never heard of Muck, dude.
I'm not sure offhand.
It sounds like, from the way that who's explaining it there, it's almost like one of these games that would be made in like a game jam or something, and it's been released or purchasable or something.
Well, I've got to be honest, it looks fun because it looks a little bit like it's very totally accurate battle simulator graphics.
That's pretty cool.
But it looks like a first-person kind of hack and slash. Okay, Muck is a survival roguelike. Collect resources, find items, and build a base to survive for as long as you can.
Every time I hear totally accurate battle simulator, I think of that game. And it's an actual game as well.
It's such a funny game. We tried to play it on console when they brought it out for that, but it's not optimized for it whatsoever.
Oh no, it is PC, and even in PC with some of the best builds, it's still so janky.
Oh yeah.
Hand simulator. Now here's the other thing, right? Hand simulator. That's an interesting sort of segue, we'll call it. Like, when does it become a point where developers are just throwing Unity assets at you and making a game that somehow you get just the perfect formula of a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and you make something like Goat Simulator.
What was that other game? It's like I Am Bread or something like that. You were like a piece of bread or a piece of toast.
Was it the same devs that did that? I'm sure it was the same devs. It was Coffee Stain, the guys that do Satisfactory.
I think so. I believe it was. Yeah, they just made like piss about games that you could just play, and sadly enough, they actually did really good. Like they were fun. People played them.
I don't think they did.
Right, trying to become toast.
I thought they did.
Oh yeah, no, it is, isn't it? Oh god. Well, that's not what I expected to find. But Goat Simulator and I Am Bread team up to bring Goat Bread DLC with playable piece of bread. So it was Coffee Stain that did Goat Simulator and Bossa Studios for I Am Bread.
I can't believe people actually played as a piece of bread. Like that's still
like there's got to
it
be,
was well done with the control scheme and such as well. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But you know, somebody somewhere has just sat and went, "What about this concept for a game?" Like, and it's
so you know what? Let's play as a piece of bread.
But I guess that's it. It's the concept, isn't it? It's a great example. Like, look at battle royale games just now. You know, they're huge. They have been for years, right? But like the very first battle royale game that I remember was the Arma 3 mod Exile, which I'm pretty sure the dev of Exile went on to make PUBG. I'm sure it's the same gentleman.
I'm sorry, you've got to see this Goat Bread trailer. This is it just cracked me up so much.
Yeah, I remember when PUBG came out. There was a lot of controversy over that. Goat Bread and it's kind of disturbing.
Let's have a gander.
It's actually really disturbing.
It's really got me. It just cracked me up.
Am I playing from the point you linked or the whole thing?
From the beginning. Go from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Oh, hello, Twitch. We're also on that, but this is the trailer for the DLC. I just don't.
That's it.
That's it. Like 20-something seconds. That was it.
20 seconds of just a goat licking a piece of bread. It looks like it's been crudely made in Photoshop or possibly even Paint.
But they'll pay for it or they'll play it. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I want to play it. That sold me, and it's told me nothing, not a thing.
Like this, just yeah.
Can't hear YouTube on stream.
You have to be a piece of soggy bread to do that. Like no other explanation.
This has the same level of rage quit to it as oh feck, what was it called again? the one that Quasi streamed and kind
of Patrick.
That's the one, yeah.
Cool. No, it's interesting. But shall we go through some of these scores then?
Yes. Yes, let's do it. Let's have a look at some of these scores. Should we start with a Metacritic one first?
Yeah, I think so. So we've got it filtered here by year 2021 and all platforms.
Yeah.
And like, perhaps we should define what Metascore is, just so that people are aware of the difference in case they're not.
Yeah.
Not that I imagine many gamers would not know what a Metascore is, but it's here's the thing, like, I don't necessarily know if it's one person doing these reviews or if it's a team of reviewers at Metacritic that then all kind of give it an average rating.
So it's based off an
always
average rating from other critics. Yeah. So this is the top one, Disco Elysium, the final cut, has a score of 97 based on 11 critic reviews. So you got Game Grin up at the top with 100, Shindig gave it 100, Keen Gamer gave it 100, but then down at the bottom, Game Informer and PC Mag both gave it a 90, and then there's some in the middle as well. So it's kind of got that average score of 97 off of those 11 reviews.
Yeah, but then you expand it and you see the user score is at 8.2.
Yes, so the user score is actually based on 477 ratings.
That's a people, if I'm not mistaken, I thought.
Yeah. And they can range from anything, instead of going out of 100, they go from 0 to 10. And already you can see how mixed it is when you scroll down on the user reviews. Like the top one is 10, then the one literally right underneath it is 1. So
I didn't play it, so I wouldn't know offhand, but I've seen some YouTube videos on it and stuff like that. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. So the basic difference is just user score from players versus critics' reviews based on an average across however many reviews were submitted for the game.
So I think the question I would like to start with before we go into each individual game then would be, do you buy it? Have you ever or would you ever buy a game based purely off its score?
No. Actually, no. Because that would have been like Cyberpunk 2077. Like the scores was tanked. But the game, if it wouldn't have been so like whack job, would have been so good that the times you could play it, it was really fun, then it would mess up. So the game itself was really good, so I still gave it a shot, even though the scores were in the toilet.
Yeah. I mean, I've done the same in the past, but unfortunately it did bite me on the arse. I did it with 2K. It was WWE 2K20.
Yeah,
and I waited for a fair few months. I waited for it to, the patches to come in. Because when it released, it was a broken mess. And when I bought it after 5 or 6 patches, it was still a broken mess. It also turned out to be just a terrible game in general, so I really should have listened to the scores at that point. But I tried to go in with an open mind.
I have to agree. Cyberpunk was a disappointment, but it had so much potential. If they would have actually waited and then retested on like the PS4 and the Xbox 3, like the Xbox Ones, instead of pushing it for PS5 and stuff like that, they would have been okay. But they didn't. They just shot it out there, and it was bad.
Yeah,
They didn't care.
I think the thing is, it wasn't a bad game. It was just because it was so hyped, and there was so much potential that was shown that it just never ever was going to be able to reach it. So then the problems that there was with it, which were totally legitimate, just seemed so much worse by comparison.
But even before they released it, there was still another talk of them going to push it back until the next year, and I think they should have done it. But they didn't want to. They wanted to go ahead and get it out there. I think that's what shot them in the foot.
Yeah, I would agree. That crunch one lip.
Yeah, that's that money thing.
No, I think...
I remember PlayStation and all them did a huge refund for it. Even yanked it off.
Well, they stopped selling it. I think I can't think of another game that Sony and Microsoft too just straight up. Here it's like plastered all over their storefronts and then ripped away not long after.
That one was ripped away within 2 weeks of it being out. It was pulled off the PlayStation Network, and they sent because I remember it because I bought it for PlayStation. They sent out the PSN network sent out a bunch of messages to all PlayStation users and was like, if you want to refund this, we'll do a full refund, no questions asked. And it was in like as long as you did it within that like month time.
Wow.
No, I played it. Alicia bought it for me for I think it was my late birthday present, because it was the end of November. It was like the 23rd of November or something. It came out, wasn't it? And
it was late in the year.
I'm sure she bought it for my birthday, and it was a couple of weeks before I actually got to play it. And I installed it, and I'm playing it, and I'm like, I don't see what the problems are. And I had a very fair play through of it. I didn't complete the game, but to be honest with you, I actually stopped because I don't know, it didn't feel fun to play. Like
the mechanics, the mechanics had such potential, but the problems didn't start until about halfway to 3/4 through the game. There was 2 or 3 side missions that if you didn't do them when they first popped up, they wouldn't allow you to come back and do them. And then there was one mission that if you went too far ahead, because you know how you have like the NPCs that like walk with you in most games, if you went ahead of them too far, the door would shut before that NPC came through, which would finish the level, but in the sense it wouldn't finish the level because that NPC's got to be with you because he's a main character in the game. So you would have to hope to God that you had a restart point behind where that was and then push that NPC through the door before you walk through the door. And if you didn't and it accidentally saved right there, well, the files are fucked and you had to restart the whole game.
No.
Yeah, I had that happen.
Christ.
It was very bad. I was not happy. So I finished the game, but I had to restart. So.
But correct me if I'm wrong, was there not also a whole load of controversy and shady nonsense going down at the same time? Like, I'm sure reviewers had got access to the game early, and I'm pretty sure specifically they were only allowed to review the PC port, or PC version. Yeah, I think it was more a console port of a PC game rather than the other way around.
Because when they originally designed it, they designed it for PC and next-gen consoling. So when it came out for old gen and next gen, it didn't lap the way it was supposed to. Next gen did all right with it, but there was an issue on the PS5 with it that it would corrupt the hard drive, and you had to factory reset the PS5.
I mean, at least there's a recovery for it. You know, we're not talking New World burning 3060s here, 3090s here, whatever it was, 3080s.
Yeah, that is true. I think I did hear about that. It was causing them to burn out or something like that. Boy, that would have been bad. Load up a new game and all of a sudden it just zaps your GPU.
I mean, I don't know what's worse, zapping your GPU or zapping your PS5. They're both just as hard to get as each other, to be honest. There's no real winner there.
With the PS5, you could just factory reset it, log into your account, and re-download everything. With the fucking GPU, you have to send that bad boy off and try to get a new one if you could even find one.
It's like, yeah, we'd love to replace your graphics card, but, well...
The next 1 year, we ain't gonna have any.
So, I mean, we're looking at this from... I think the list that we've got goes right the way through every game that was released this year, from indie to AAA. So, I mean, should we focus on the top 10?
I think we should go maybe 25, just having a peek at some of these titles here. I think would be quite good to talk about that are after the 10. So I think we should go 25.
All right, okay. Well, I mean, number 1, we have Disco Elysium: The Final Cut, which, for all accounts, was supposed to be a very, very good game. It's one of those top-down sort of isometric hack and slash type of games, from what I recall. And yeah, it was quite... I think, if I remember rightly, one of the reviews I listened into was it's very frustrating when you play it over and over and over and over, because you would go through a level and you would kind of like, you try to do things like stealthy, and you try and go through like really slow and get through the most methodical way possible, only to be hit by like a guard at the other end of the room, send you right back to the beginning. But you respawn that quickly, you don't really have a chance to like process it.
Mm-hmm.
So you die and you come straight back. I mean, you just go in and get, after a while, once you're frustrated enough, you just go, right, fuck the stealthy approach, and just pick up a crowbar and just go to town on people as you're going through. So as that sort of like,
of the time anyways.
Yeah, so it kind of has that sort of, I think it's like a roguelike element as well. where it's not always the same map if you replay it. I think. Don't quote me on that. Might be wrong, but I'm sure that's the kind of game it was.
Almost sounds like Ready or Not that's out right now.
I've got to be honest. I know very little about Disco Elysium. I think I seen it on Steam at some point earlier in the year, but I don't even think I seen it. I don't even think I seen it on its launch. I'm pretty sure I seen it in the summer sale.
I seen one YouTube video on it, and I think it was. I want to say Smitty. He was playing with a couple people that was playing it, and I haven't seen it since. So I've seen like one video. It looked cool, but not something I would offhand play.
Oh, do you know what? I think I've actually completely mistaken this for a different game. I think
I was reading the description. I was like,
Yeah, no, I've totally mistaken that for. I believe This Is the Police.
Oh man,
It's a totally different game.
Be right back.
Pro gamers, by the way.
Pro gamers. You know, I only used to write reviews for games on a previous website. I can't even identify two games across each other, but hey ho.
Well, I think it's safe to say that this number one game on this list, we all know very little about. But that in itself, I think, is an interesting concept. Like, you know, this game is the, according to the filters we've put down, the highest rated game across all platforms for the whole year of 2021. And you have three people here who are, I think it would be fair to say, avid gamers who have no idea what the thing's about. I've never heard of it, never played it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's the single best rated game
apparently
of 2021, apparently.
It's so good, in fact, that it didn't get nominated at the Game Awards. But, you know, it's fine. Actually, what did get nominated as Game of the Year at the Game Awards? Because that would be an interesting comparison as well.
I'm sure it was... It Takes Two was probably one of the bigger ones. There was quite a few, actually. I remember...
Yeah, Game of the Year was It Takes Two.
A phenomenal game. Alicia and I played through some of that. It was pretty good.
It definitely caught my interest. I found out something about it, which I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who wants to play it, but I was quite shocked at a particular moment that happens in it that I wouldn't have taken from the trailer.
Yeah, there are quite a few of those, and I think it's brilliant because there's a lot in it for a lot of different people. You know, I have a fairly healthy relationship with my fiance, but I could relate and see how easy it is to start bickering over nothing. You know, you as the player, the external looking in, you're like, well, there's no real reason for you guys to really be at each other's throats the way that they are at the start of the game, you know? And but when you put yourself in their shoes, and it's like, well, absolutely, that pisses them off. That doesn't really sit well with them or whatever, you know? It's I get it. But then, you know, you look at like number 2 on this list, The House in Fata Morgana, Dreams of the Revenants Edition.
Never heard of it until I read this list. Like, legit, this is the first time I've ever seen this game mentioned. And it's number 2 with a Metacritic score of 96. Like,
that said, it does
came
appear...
out on my birthday, for Christ's sake. Where is it? Critic reviews. So
the actual critic reviews are hundreds.
And you got 90, 85, and 80. But they're all literally reviewed by Nintendo specific magazines. So should that really stand? Because like that seems very biased in a way.
10 reviews, no less.
Actually, it is kind of a bias to a point, but some of these games are only on these consoles, though.
This
True,
person
it is
has an interesting take on it. A visual novel is not a game.
Is that what was ruled, or
This is a comment from one of the I think actually it's one of the actual user reviews.
really?
And, this kind of practice is destroying the industry nearly as much as microtransactions.
Oh, come on.
Not sure I agree with that entirely, but you know. But again,
Hang on. There's the number 10. Sorry, there's a Metacritic, a user score of 10 there from The Harbinger, who said, "This is hands down the best visual novel I've ever read. The music, the atmosphere, and the characters themselves all come together in a beautiful tale. Everything is perfect." He said read, not played. Right.
I refuse to believe
Indirectly, he's kind of agreed with the other person that it's
Mhm.
not a game. Which is interesting.
it's a kinetic novel, meaning there are only choices with multiplying. So, what do we end up getting ourselves a very cutscene heavy game and we call it a movie? And suddenly it's now in movie charts. I mean, okay, that's maybe a wee bit unreasonable, but it's not completely outside the realm of possibility with the same logic going on here. But yeah, again, never heard of it. Again, there you go on Switch, going back to what I was saying earlier. The idea that, you know, in this case, it doesn't really necessarily matter the number of sales, I guess, in this one.
No, I don't think
It's
so.
just purely the 10 people that reviewed it on here. Should submit Atro to it and see what they say, and we'll just pretend we're reviewers.
Why not? Why not? I mean, I wouldn't mind playing a few extra games just for the sake of reviewing it.
That would be quite cool.
I don't know if I can play a novel.
See, now I quite like visual novels. Like they are engaging, but there is something to be said about after a while it gets a little bit stale when you just
Repetitive?
click. Okay, click. Now can I move yet? No. All right, click.
That has to be some boring person to give it that high of a score to make it number 2.
I think it's probably been reviewed, obviously, by quite niche markets. You know what I mean? Like the only people who are going to rate it that high are the people who are really into it, and the people who aren't into it aren't necessarily going to take the time to go and write a review because they're just going to put it down and forget about it. You know. So maybe that's partially why this has got such a high score.
Maybe so. I mean, the other thing is, what do they compare it to? You know, just as you say, like you look at like let's just Call of Duty for example. Call of Duty is a good example. What's Call of Duty standing against right now, realistically speaking? Battlefield 2042.
Which is losing players right now.
Yeah. That had a terrible launch.
Even now,
but Call of Duty also had 1,800 developers walk out, and they're calling for the removal of the head CEO or something like that over development. So
yeah, but
they're floating a thin line.
I don't think that. Not that I don't think what happened, but like what happened with Blizzard, not Activision specifically. I know there was some in Activision as well that were part of it, but like you're not going to release a game that you've just finished deving like a week ago, you know? COD was likely finished, I'd imagine, a couple of months ago, and then they've just refined it. That said though, and I'm not sitting here bashing on COD for the sake of it, but much like FIFA, it's just the same game with a different skin on top of it. There's not really anything there to. I'm gonna see make.
Then they dropped what was it, Vanguard, which was the same game but in a World War II style basis. But they said it was the same mechanics brought over.
I See, I have a problem with that kind of practice anyway. Just because every year without fail, they tend to get on these lists of like great games of the year. It's like, well, yeah, but they haven't done anything. They've changed nothing. They've sat on a formula they know works. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I would argue that rather than releasing a new version of the game, why don't you just support the ones you've got out and extend their life? You could probably make just as much money out of it that way by bringing new players in.
I find like FIFA's a prime example of this. Madden maybe even more so. Like you look at a game like FIFA, or any of these, casino live action games. That's effectively what they are. And you pay what, $60, $70, $80 sometimes for these titles, and then give it a year. And I'm sure we've seen this. I don't know how many times I've honestly sat there and lamented about it. But you pay your $70 for your FIFA 2020. FIFA 2021 launches. You can walk into any game shop anywhere and pick up FIFA the previous year for $5. It's completely worthless. So almost like, and with the companies
are smart with it though. They're really smart with that because they know you're going to pay for it.
But it's almost like a yearly subscription in disguise.
Yeah,
seriously though. It was just like Call of Duty. I think Modern Warfare came out a couple years. So you had Modern Warfare, and then you had Cold War, and then you had Vanguard. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, they just did the same thing.
Yeah, I mentioned WWE 2K earlier on as well. It's the same practice with that, and like I kind of feel like what they should do with these games is have DLC campaigns, rather than trying to like force out 80 quid for these premium games. I might add, this is what they call themselves.
Really, like Grand Theft Auto did online, drops a different DLC all the time.
Yeah, do something like that, because you can keep your existing player base engaged for longer while bringing in new players. Because this is what happened recently with Star Wars: The Old Republic. They put in a patch that completely overhauled their battle system and the way their combat works, and
heard that worked out really well for them.
It did, yeah. Like they brought old players back and new players in, because there were some that were like, I've never played it before, but this seems pretty cool, and their older players were like, fuck yeah, let's do this. Like there's something to be said about, rather than pumping a new one out every year, just making those tweaks and changes every year, giving them a new campaign to play on the one they've already bought.
Like I've been saying it for years. If they'd bring back Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, how many old Call of Duty players would you bring back to play that game again?
Mm-hmm. I think it's different though, because passage of time is a thing. Like, I'm not exactly old, I don't think, but I'm certainly nowhere near as quick as I once was back in 2007, 8, something, whatever it was, when Modern Warfare 2 came out.
Yeah.
The golden days.
Would I, even now, like, I still don't play a lot of shooters, but, they say once you hit 30, you're kind of over the hill when it comes to your reaction time anyway, compared to how you would have been 10, 15, 20 years previous.
Good thing they have the DPS button on the mouse.
That's right, you get your technological aids out.
What we're going to do is start playing with like handicaps and stuff, and be like, oh yeah, that's, I'm a silver tier gamer with a -4 stroke,
But I mean, come on, what's the difference between that and a hearing aid? You know what I mean? It's just.
But no, it's re-releasing old games. I mean, even on this list here, I mean, I don't know anything about this, right? But this Disco Elysium, this is the final cut. Not to sound dramatic when I say this is the final cut, but evidently, I assume it's the definitive edition. It's a re-release. So you end up getting into a position, I think, where if modern games are effectively moving a smidge by a smidge by a smidge, FIFA, for example, Madden, NBA, whatever. That's not quite what we said, but welcome to the stream regardless, mate. But if gaming's moving just a piece by piece by piece, I don't think we can really afford for games to generally be like re-releasing themselves. Like, look at Skyrim, right? How many versions of Skyrim are? Does anyone even know how many versions of Skyrim there is, or how many versions of Skyrim there's going to be?
Count that because there's so many of them.
There was two.
Year they used to pump them.
Yeah, like, I think it was too many the moment they unironically released a version on Alexa.
Oh,
do you know, like, I was totally down for an Alexa version of Skyrim. Like, this whole idea of, like, in this dialogue novel with Alexa. Then again, novel, not a game, innit?
Cast this spell. Yeah, no, that would have been. I can see that one going down south.
But I mean, there is something to be said there. You have input because it's you who are choosing the outcome. And granted, you can just go read and choose your own adventure book. But it's
but then you got the person that doesn't know how to pronounce something, and all of a sudden he casts another whack ass spell, and all of a sudden it's like, you're dead, and it's like, that's not what I said. Yeah, that could have.
Yeah, or they
you
can
just hear it, just be like, Hedova Hikin has cast for Shroda.
I have to head to work, my fellow friends.
Oh no, we're already on number 2.
I know, but I will hop in the chat and I will chat with y'all about this while I'm in the car.
You realize when you leave,
you're gonna
webcam thing is messed
what
up.
What I can do is I can just turn the camera off and it won't screw anything up. I don't have to leave this. I can mute everything. And I can hop back in here and chat with y'all, but I won't be at my computer. I'll be on my phone. So.
All right. Okay. Shit's gonna go whack in a minute.
No. So I'm not gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave on my PC. The PC will kick me out later.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so we have a time limit until this whole overlay goes.
I did see it's gonna go fucking random.
There it goes. Janky.
Oh no! You've seen this in our real form.
Now I'm gonna have to somehow fix this shit.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Oh wait a minute! I know what I can do.
Oh, what can you do?
I can.
Oh,
wait for it.
Wait for it. I'm waiting.
Hold on. Wait just a wee bit longer.
It's still waiting.
Just a wee bit longer.
Watch the port.
No. I know what we're gonna do here. This is gonna fix you. You guys are gonna be impressed here. Bing.
Are you
that really annoying thing that I was like.
There it is.
Come in and save the.
That worked out all right.
That was all right. Yeah. I'll take that until he comes back, and then it breaks it again, and I'll just be like, God damn it. But for now, we're just gonna have to put up with this purely because,
open some PNG and stream that. Not to be fair, we could actually just put a placeholder image in there.
Probably could. In fact, I could probably even just go one stage further and just turn them off. There we go. Stream's still running. It's fine. And just.
Nice.
It's like it never happened. There we go. See, sorted and fixed.
There it is. Now we've got a lovely little bit of space underneath us as well.
Yeah, we could. It's not bad. I'm quite impressed with how easy I was able to fix that quite quickly.
I know.
In fact, actually, what we can do is we can take chat and stick chat, and we can stick chat where it is.
Ha ha ha.
Put some duct tape on it and call it fixed. This is a podcast, mate. This is just purely for chats. This isn't one of Brit's dev streams, mate. And make sure you tell him we told him so.
Clip it. Send him it.
Number 3 on this listed. I can't believe we only got to 2 here. How outrageous is Tetris? I mean, It's a Switch version of Tetris, so it's not to like. Tetris gameplay was perfected 20, 30 years ago.
It's 3D
With co-op. How do you co-op Tetris? I'm not quite sure, but
by causing many an argument, I think.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, Hades is fourth.
Hades wasn't a bad game. I actually played Hades. It was. I'm not a big fan of roguelikes. I'm not really grabbing the whole genre thing too well with it. Convinced game developers of Tetris are motherloading at this point, pretty much.
I'll send him a team.
To be honest, like, if you're making Tetris and you're pumping out 3 or 4 versions of it a year, probably, I'd imagine, some way, shape, or form, there's not really an awful lot of overhead. And there's not really an awful lot of, like, to go completely against what we just said about not making, like, innovative steps properly. But then you get a game like Tetris, it's like, we don't need to. So
yeah, because nobody wants it. Like, there's a point where you don't need to reinvent the wheel. But I guess that same argument still lends credence to the previous point of just update the story to keep people interested. Because, you know, clearly Tetris are not reinventing the wheel. They're just putting some sparkly new background on it or putting it into 3D so that it keeps up, I guess, with a modern look, but without changing the formula. And so it's still very clearly Tetris, that game that everybody knows and loves, but it's shiny and new.
So, using the FIFA example again, it technically is the same game that everybody knows and loves, that you pay an extra $70 for a year for the privilege of playing it. No, obviously Tetris doesn't cost $70. It's probably like 15, 20, something like that. I don't know.
I can't imagine it being that high.
Forza's another good example. Forza, a lot of it's EA. Like, I will say that that's just EA's kind of EA, Activision, the big ones, you know? When your triple E game is not really a triple E game, it's just the same game rehashed. But it's interesting because you look at various types of games, and it's the same stuff regurgitated, right? We're turning around I know I'm hating on FIFA a wee bit, just it's the easiest example that comes to mind, but but I guarantee you, I could say that. Most people might turn around and go, oh yeah, I see what you're getting at. But then if I turn around and says, well, what about a Pokemon game? How is a Pokemon game different than FIFA? Different players, different Pokemon, different maps, different stadiums.
But in theory, well, not even in theory, it's the same formula, but with a different map layout.
That's a fair point from Sai. The new Pokemon are abysmal, like garbage Pokemon, and fucking I'm a set of keys and I'm a garbage truck or a helicopter. I don't think it's helicopter Pokemon, but
I'm pretty sure they just grabbed an encyclopedia now just to grab things out of. A lantern, was it green?
Is it Partian? Partian says, used to be a mug that used to buy into EA's lies when they say the new FIFA would have more features. It's just a reskinned FIFA 14. It is, it's just over and over and over again. In fact, I'm almost certain that, is it FIFA 18 has less in it than its predecessor. They took stuff out of the game and then just packaged it. I'm sure it was 18, 19, something like that.
I mean, they did the same thing with The Sims, though, didn't they? The Sims 3 came out, and then they did all the DLCs, like they always do, all their expansions, and then they went to Sims 4, and there was less in the Sims 4 base game than there was in the Sims 3 base game. to the point where they didn't even have swimming pools, and it's like, come on, that's one of the basic things you want when that's in The Sims 1. And it's not in The Sims 4. It's like, come on, now you're just taking the piss. But that's EA's MO. They just make you pay for the same fucking thing over and over.
Doesn't make it right, though.
Of course not.
But then...
And yet, I'm still a mug. I still went and bought the Star Wars expansion for it. So, because I'm an absolute nerd and a mug. So... I don't agree with it, but I still buy into it because I enjoy the game, and I guess that's probably what pisses me off the most. I feel like I'm being held hostage. You know?
It's almost like you have free will, Ducky.
You shut up, voice that's no longer visible.
I love you.
I think Lyle's is joining us in audio only at the moment because you're driving, and I'm not going to have you put your camera on. You're driving, bro. I'm
Unless you
sure that's
fancy
against
showing us where you're
TOS.
going, and we could try and play live action GeoGuessr.
I would be heading to work.
But one thing has to ask, that does raise an interesting question, though. Like, I would agree that mods do keep The Sims alive, similar to Skyrim to an extent. I have stints where I'll sit and play nothing but The Sims for like a week solid, and then I go down the rabbit hole, and ultimately my character always ends up the same way. Great at music, great at tinkering, awesome computer hacker, probably plays piano or guitar or something akin. And he plays with the plumb bots, or he's an inventor or something like that, and they always wind up the same way. I've always wanted to sit there and go, right, I'm going to actually make a family specifically, or make a sim specifically to raise their kid as the god of Sims, you know, like 10 and everything, you know. But one that needs to ask the question is that the developer who created the game, should they be the ones to benefit from the fact that their game is so highly rated and loved within the community because of the mods that are made for it, or is it the modders that should deserve the praise rather than the creators of the base game? It's kind of catch-22 in some ways.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that kind of be like GTA and then 5M?
I don't know, because 5M, like, I mean, have you seen a base 5M server, dude?
Actually, no, not really.
A base 5M server, when you say all said and done, is legitimately an empty map with nothing on it, not a single blip, and civs driving around in cars. That's it. There is nothing else. So 5M in some ways, it's like it's your own. Every server is its own game, effectively. There's just many of them. You know, I was talking to, I think it was Quarzy and Soph about this earlier today, about the differences between Minecraft and Roblox. Now, arguably, there's a bigger stigma surrounding Roblox. You know, if I said to one of my mates down the pub one day and be like, oh yeah, I was simply playing Minecraft the other day, they'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, it was alright. If I turn around and says, I was playing Roblox the other day, they'd be like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's strange, yet Roblox is a far more adaptive platform than what Minecraft is. Because it's Minecraft's always going to be Minecraft plus something. Whereas Roblox will be whatever the hell you want it to be. And 5M's a wee bit similar, I think. Where GTA 5 is GTA 5, it's full of heists and PvP and races and obviously the story that goes with it. Whereas 5M is very much like, you could have a race server, you could have a 5PD server, you could have a zombie thing, you could have 100k or die, King of the Hill. There's a lot that goes into making them different, I think. So I would say in that instance, then the developers of the 5M servers uniquely are the ones that get the praise for 5M being what it is. not the CFX developers. And anyone that's been in the Atro Discord for any length of time very much knows my stance on CFX developers. But, you know, what's chat saying? Social accessibility is a huge factor in gaming. 10 years ago, it was weird if you had a mechanical keyboard. But yeah, that's fair. And had more than one monitor. Problem with Roblox is how limited you are by how bad the base mechanics are to begin with. I don't even know what the base mechanics of Roblox are. I thought it was completely open. Gary's mod has been more mod availability. That's fair. No matter how much work you put into it, it's still going to be the same base mechanics. Fair.
I mean, yeah, sure. That's fair. I think the way that a 5M server probably differs from like other games with mods in is that with 5M, the amount of customization you get is basically like playing with a game engine. You've got your map, and you've got the mechanics that exist within that engine effectively, and then after that, it's just whatever you can come up with. Like, you don't have to play the base story, you don't have to do any of the rest of it. It's just an open map. Whereas mods on things like Skyrim or Fallout or whatever, you have the base game and you can tack something onto it, but you haven't got a lot of room to play with, because if you do use too much memory and too many resources, you'll just crash out the whole game.
Yep.
So there is a little bit of a difference, but actually quite a big difference. But I would say there's a hell of a lot more creativity and customization that goes into a 5M or even a RedM server.
Yeah, but you say you can crash it with too many resources. You ever put out enough TNT in Minecraft to crash a server?
I have, and it's fun.
Boy,
yeah, but to be fair, often the time it's a client-sided crash. And that's more your computer not being able to handle it, not the game crashing. So it's a hardware limitation there rather than the software limitation.
Yeah. Which,
you could argue that that's plus one for the software, I guess, when the hardware fails first.
True. But then you might also be able to argue that it's a fail for the software for not being compatible with the hardware.
Yeah, but there's so many
a lot of hardware.
There's so many variants of hardware out there. I mean, that's why consoles last as long as they do. You know, a PS4 that you bought at launch and a PS4 you buy even today, okay, they're not exactly the same. There's a few revision models in between, but the hardware itself is, there may only be, I don't even know, I'm guessing maybe half a dozen revisions over the life cycle of a whole console.
Yeah.
But those developers are writing for 6 revisions of what the PS4 is. Whereas if you start writing a PC game, think about all the combinations of CPU, GPU, motherboard. Some might be running SATA drives, some might be running, even IDE drives, God forbid. Some might have, some might be running Windows 11, some are running Windows 10, some are running Windows 7. Whereas you can guarantee that every single PlayStation, within reason, will be bang up to date with the most recent and greatest operating system put out by Sony and the like. Assuming, of course, it's internet connected and blah, 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 blah. But, you could then argue and say, well, if it's not up to date, why would it be supported? Yeah, that makes sense.
True.
But Hades on the list was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Did anybody else actually play it? Lyle's stuck.
Again, it's one that's passed me by, but a lot to do with work.
Which one is it?
Hades.
No, and I haven't actually looked into it that much either. I saw one trailer for it, and I didn't look at anything else. Kind of like fell off the face of the earth for me.
Like, it really is one of those games that I am interested in, though. Like, the sort of roguelike hack and slash dungeon crawler, but with a Greek mythology sort of, thing behind it. It just really interests me.
Almost sounds like God of War.
Is so nice. Like it's literally the kind of game I would love to play and could sit and play for hours, but I just let it pass me by, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, I'll probably buy it at some point, but like my policy is with most games these days, because of cost, I wait until it gets reduced. By which point the hype's died down and I've usually forgotten. So it's a bit sad, really, when you consider that games have effectively priced people out.
Just the way you said that made me think of Titanfall 2. Like how many bugs it had, everyone waited for the price to drop, and then no one was playing it.
Yeah, it's a shame, but
another EA title though. At the end of the day, isn't it?
That is true. That's true.
The next one, I think I could talk about forever, but we're not going to. Because frankly,
first on the list I've actually bloody played. And technically I haven't, because I've only played Final Fantasy XIV and not got to that bit yet. So,
see, I'm half expecting half the chat here to be like, Steve loves Final Fantasy XIV. He's just gonna gush about this game. But actually, from the point of view of a review, I think Endwalker being the way that it is, and let me explain what I mean by that for people that haven't played it. So, Endwalker is the 4th expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. And the way Final Fantasy does its content, it has obviously your solid number patches, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, all the way up to 6 currently. There's a reason it's 6 and not 5, but we'll get to that. But once you hit 6.0, you then finish what you would call the main scenario quest. But actually, what you've hit is the midpoint finale. Because then you've got, for example, Heavensward. Heavensward, when it launched, was the first expansion, and it was 3.0 as it was known. But then you had 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, something else, maybe 3.55 in between from memory. But those 5 patches that came after the launch of the expansion were the other half of the expansion. In terms of story, not necessarily volume of content, but in terms of the story, there was obviously new raids, dungeons and stuff added as you'd expect from an MMO experience. But the game launched, reviewers have got a hold of it, and they then try and review it. But you can't, because the expansion cycle for Final Fantasy XIV, COVID aside, is 2 years per expansion. But there's no way you can do that if the game's just released. Endwalker is a bit different because it's the cap on the end of everything. It actually finishes with the end of 6.0 for that whole story arc. But Endwalker itself is still going to have a 6.1, a 6.2, a 6.3, and so on. But there's no way, like, it could be terrible. It could be totally crap. The story could be shit. The new raids that come out could be completely garbage that nobody likes. Like, I didn't raid in Stormblood. I hated the raids in Stormblood. You know, they were all, they were okay. That's about as much as I could say. I had no interest in it. Shadowbringer raids, fucking loved them. Did every single one as much as I could until we got to the last set, and it just didn't grab my interest at all. It went on one of Nomura's weird friendship is power nonsense crap that I just don't care about. But to turn around and say that it was the best game I had ever played at the time is woefully unwarranted. As much as I have loved Endwalker playing through it and finishing it, I don't know what the next 18, 19, 20 months worth of content is going to be like, which arguably is more than what we've got now. Because it's the whole point of an MMO is to keep its players playing and paying for as long as it possibly can. So, yeah, okay, you've made me buy the expansion. You made me play through the expansion with the content on offer just now. But there's no way of really being able to know how well that piece of content, or that game, if you like, is actually going to keep me invested in it for any length period of time. So I think reviewing it now doesn't make any sense. You can't.
Because it hasn't had its full life cycle yet. So
it's like Brexit. Is it going to be a good or a bad thing? Nobody knows, but you have to choose before it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
I just remember Steve disappearing for a week to play Endwalker.
That was brilliant. It really was. It was fantastic. It really was. But the point of discussion is the Metascore version of it. That's where I stand with the reviewing of any MMO, any sort of long-term game like that.
So you could argue then that the user score that it's got is probably based off of the excitement that people have had for playing it the first time.
And very few people would go back through. I need to word this carefully because there's many people that would, but there are very few people that would go and play a brand new character through it all again. But what I mean by that is, like, I've finished Endwalker now. I've finished, obviously, MSQ. I've done all that sort of stuff. I've completed the Extreme Trials. We're going to start doing Savage in a couple of weeks. But effectively, once that's done, all the new content that's actually available to me, I've done and completed. I'm not going to go start a new character and play through it all again. I'm just not going to do that.
No.
But if I were to pick up Hades, for example, okay, it's a roguelite, I get that. But that aside, you'd expect someone to be able to pick that up and play through it several times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so I think I get where you're coming from. Like, when games like that, when they have such a big, robust story, like, they don't have a replay value immediately. Like, they are the kind of games that you sit and you wait for maybe even up to a year before you come back to.
Mm-hmm.
I can safely say that I've completed Final Fantasy X approximately 4 times, beginning to end, with messing around. But there are years apart.
I was going to say, you didn't do that back to back.
I did not. There was no way, because once I was done, I had to rest. I had to reset. The same goes for Fallout 4. I've completed that about 2 or 3 times.
I don't even want to talk about Fallout 4. I had it glitch on me.
I don't think anybody hasn't had it glitch on them, but like,
do you remember the mission where you have to go underneath the bank and the animatronic robot would like blast through the dirt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the mission that glitched on me, and I had to restart on that mission twice. The whole game had to restart twice.
Damn.
So pissed. It would get all the way to the end, and then the animatronic wouldn't blast the bottom of the bank out, so you can get up in the vault.
Dude.
But you know,
great game, but oh my god.
But here's the thing with like Fallout 4. I would say, I don't want to universally say Bethesda games because I don't mean all Bethesda games. But like these RPG narrative stories where, Skyrim, Outer Worlds, Dragon Age to a lesser extent, Mass Effect, these storytelling games, like I said with Sims, when I play Skyrim, I always end up one of 2 ways. I'm either a mage that's splitting the planet in 2, or I'm a stealthy guy with a bow and arrow and who went down the Dark Brotherhood, or sometimes both. But I never play a character that runs around with a Warhammer, for example. I've never, ever played a Warhammer character in any game. But every single time I have played Skyrim, which is a fair amount considering how long it's been out,
Yeah.
I've never had exactly the same experience twice.
That's true. I've see when I play that game, and when I play any game that has an epic story and a semi-moral choice system, because it does. It's not full. It doesn't really affect you, but there is a choice there. When I play games like that, I can play them immediately afterwards because I can go back and I can make a different choice.
Yeah.
I largely ignore the story to see how things would play out if I do it a different way. So the idea of, for example, just to pluck one fucking choice out of my ass for Fallout 4, would be when you have your spoilers for anybody who hasn't played the game, but it's fucking years old, so get over it. If one of the characters turns out to be a synth, and you have an option to either kill them and side with the Brotherhoods and be all like, down with synths, they're all wrong and against nature, or you can choose to side with him and effectively be outlawed from the Brotherhood. That affects the ending of the game somewhat, because you basically choose on that last mission which faction you go in with, or whether you go in by yourself. But that choice completely alienates you from that faction. You cannot bring them in the final mission if you side with your synth friend. So that was a choice that I wanted to know how it would go the other way. I wanted to know what would happen if I killed him, and I wanted to know what would happen if I spared him. And yeah, so it was interesting, and I could do that but I didn't have to play through the entire game. In fairness, I just put one of those crafty save slots in, and I went back to that choice later. So yeah,
well, kind of like the Railroad, when you had to choose to be with them or the Brotherhood. If you went with the Railroad, they gave you a bunch of cool weapons that were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you couldn't bring them on, because if you chose against the Railroad, you ended up killing everyone in the Railroad.
Yeah, true, exactly. So there's like, you wipe a faction out entirely with one choice.
I thought the choices in that game were really nice. They were subtle, but they had like somewhat of an impact of who would help you. Did you want a stronger team to help you, or did you want like friendship and reliability there?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the game still ended the same way, but it was kind of who was left after, I guess, or how people spoke to you afterwards, how you were referred to by NPCs. It was a nice choice, but it was minor in its impact.
Now, do you remember at the end of Grand Theft Auto 5, though? You had
right.
3 choices. Well, 4 choices. You could kill Michael, Trevor, 3 choices. Michael, Trevor, or let them all live.
Yes. And I always let them all live. I did the other endings because I wanted to know what they were like, but I fucking hate.
I just did what you said, cheeky save.
Yeah, like that's the same. I put my save in. I was like, because I wanted to know what would happen, but at the same time, if I didn't like it, I wanted to be able to just choose the next one. Because
I will admit, the Trevor one was a wild ending. If you chose to kill him,
yeah. I hated the end for the Michael ending.
I did.
It just felt so shit.
Yeah, you actually felt like a villain at that point. You're like, I am a shitty person for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you pick Trevor, you're like, okay, well, he's kind of a dick anyways. He can go.
Mm. And yet there's still a part where it's like, ew.
But what most people didn't understand when they did that, they thought that was just like not going to do anything, and then they get to choose those people. and they had to restart the game because they didn't realize once you killed that character, you couldn't switch to that character no more. Some people didn't realize that when they first did it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Because I remember a Reddit post came out, and the post was, make a custom save before you choose because you can't go back. So I did that not knowing what it meant, and then I figured it out, and I was like, okay, cool, I can always load up and go a different path.
Yeah. PC Nerd has asked, can we talk about Red Dead 2? How Red Dead 2 was such an amazing game, the story.
RDR2 was an amazing game. I still believe that voting should be the year because of that shit.
Was it not cheated out by God of War?
I'm
sure it was God of War that took it.
It was a far superior game to God of War.
God of War was an amazing game. I loved it.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed God of War, but
you know, I remember.
But if you're going to talk about the PlayStation, if you're going to talk about that exclusive, you might as well go ahead and talk about Marvel's Spider-Man because it had two good games. Both the first one and the Miles Morales edition.
But there's an interesting sort of thing. Like, I remember when RDR2 came out, and I was talking to a friend about it at the time, and it was specifically the fact that God of War took Game of the Year for it. And that's fine. I'm sure God of War's a great game. I didn't play it. Actually, that's a lie. I did very briefly first half hour of it.
Yeah.
And it might have been Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm pretty sure they pretty much had exactly the same game anyway. Probably not, but whatever. But like RDR2, the development time and sheer effort that would have went into making that versus, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying right at the start of this, like the sheer amount of time and energy and effort that went into it, and they lose out to God of War, which, don't get me wrong, is a big game and has a lot of dev behind it for sure, a lot of money, a lot of budget, blah blah blah, but it's no RDR2 in terms of size and scope and scale. I think that's fair to say.
I'd say so.
But it makes you wonder, like, why would Rockstar feel safe enough that they would pursue making games like that? Because everybody has this I certainly feel, at least the circle of people I speak to, that Rockstar have this they'll release a game every 5 years and it'll just blow everybody away because they've been working on it for ages, and it wasn't really the case. That's just the perception of it, because when you actually look at like the launch dates for various games, they were hitting something out every year, every other year, whatever it was, and now it's stopped to a trickle. Yet even though it's stopped to a trickle, or another version of GTA 5, they still release the games like RDR2 that don't get the same recognition, I feel, that they deserve, you know? And it's a weird thing for a gaming company, I think, to turn around and be like, that seems to still be our model. Bethesda being the same way. They'll release 100 versions of Skyrim. But where's, what's it called? Starfield?
Yes, that's the one. That's
Is it
the next one
Starfield?
to come out. Yeah.
Where's Elder Scrolls 6? You know, yeah. I genuinely don't think it's going to be this side of 2025 before we hear anything about Elder Scrolls 6.
Probably not, no, because they've said explicitly that Starfield is their next game.
Yeah.
And that keeps getting the hint treatment, and then but it's not ready yet.
Yeah, but even Rockstar came out and announced that they wouldn't even start development for GTA 6 until they feel that the money coming in from GTA 5 isn't there. But when you have people that dump, when you have people that are dumping $300-$400 every few hours for shark cards, do you really need to even put time and effort into making a whole nother game? Like, they're making their money each day.
I get you, but they know as well as anybody else does. The second that GTA 6 comes out, they will drop GTA 5.
Oh god, they did the same thing that they did the same thing to GTA 4.
And I mean this from the player side of things. Like, as soon as GTA gets mentioned, everybody just goes, "Whoa!"
Mental.
They just drop everything for it. Like, I don't think in this country there was a bus that could go by that didn't have the GTA 5 like posters over it.
Oh, that woman! Do you remember the lawsuit over that woman?
Yeah, when was it Lindsay Lohan was like, "That's me."
Yeah.
And they went, "No, it's not."
But you know, the thing is, like, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner a wee bit, because next week there's a new DLC out for GTA 5. It's the latest and greatest thing. You now get your own private jet, or whatever the hell it's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you've had submarines, you've had islands, you've had this, whatever, right? So let's pretend it's a private jet. And in order for you to buy this private jet, it's going to cost you $50 million, right? In-game the cash. Back when I started playing GTA Online, I remember the grind I had to go through to get $85,000 to get the first apartment to do the very first heist.
Talk about that. Jesus, that was... Oh my god, I remember when GTA 5 came out. That was hard. Money was hard to get a hold of.
It was, and the problem they have, right, if you turn around to a new player, you know, "Hi Steve, you never played GTA 5 before? No, here's a copy, have fun with it, you know, it's on sale, it's £12 on Steam, great, blah 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 blah."
They give you like $2 million of fucking starter cash now. Like, let's say like a $20 extra top.
Let's say they do give you $20 million starting cash. Here's the new DLC, Steve. But that plane's $50 million, bro. And that $2 million that you got, you're probably going to want to use that to buy, you know, a facility, this and that, or an oppressor, because you're going to get fucking shot up constantly every time you go into a lobby, right? But then I would then be like, maybe not me personally, but figuratively, well, I mean, that's an awful lot of work to get that new shiny content, and it's $50 million. But there's a shark card for $50 million, and it's only 20 quid. So what's 20 quid versus several weeks of grinding? I can understand why people would have the question raised. But let's say they release GTA 6 rather. They're faced with, I see it, two choices. GTA Online is GTA Online, it's not GTA 5 Online. So what do? Do they take the GTA 6 engine and just update GTA Online to run on the GTA 6 engine and wipe everybody's accounts and start fresh? Or do they
you know, it's not a... Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
But then, here's the problem.
Entirely new servers.
They start fresh, and it's now $85,000 to get your apartment, which is much more obtainable than going from $2 to $50 million.
You know, the fact that you mentioned that when you first started, it was a grind just to get to that $85,000. It makes me laugh that when people come in, just to like even comparison it to like our 5M server that we have, people are like, "Oh, it's so hard to get to $100,000." I'm like, you don't even know what hard is. I was like, $100,000 you can get in like a week's time if you know the right people to talk with. If you role play with certain people, you can get in and get, you know, $100,000 or so in a week or two's time. Mm-hmm. And back on GTA Online, getting $100,000 was very hard. You would get like $2,000 or $3,000 after doing 30 minutes to an hour mission, and you'd only get a couple grand, like $5,000 or something like that, and you felt like you just went to the end of the earth.
Yeah, that grind felt fucking awful. Like, I didn't stick at GTA Online. I couldn't. Not least of all because every time I took a step out the door, I'd die. But
I was a KD warrior, so I was probably the guy killing you coming out the door.
Probably, yeah.
I ended up having, at one point on GTA Online, it was a 3.6 KD.
Right.
Which is consider most lobbies now, if you see anyone with over a 2.0 or a 2.5, you'll consider them a really good player in most lobbies.
Wow.
So at one point I was up at the top, but I ran with a crew. So it was like, is all the kills really me, or is it like a crew that's hitting you and then I just come in with the final hit with a sniper?
Yeah, good point. See, away from that though, this is where this list gets like truly interesting. Because we've got all platforms, right? So now we start to see duplicates of these same games. So we've already spoken about Hades. Well, right underneath it, Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker, you have Hades again, but on PlayStation 5. And then you've got... So, I mean, you could have the exact same argument we did earlier on. But, I mean, what is the difference between the Xbox Series X version and the PlayStation 5 version, except for maybe presentation of, like, graphics?
Presentation and here's the thing, though, right? Forza Horizon, I'm going to sound like I really know what I'm talking about, is a racing game, right? But when it comes to racing, like, your performance of the hardware you're using, much like a competitive, any type of game, really, is paramount, right? You're racing online, you're racing with other people, whatever. If you're racing at a lower frame rate or higher frame rate, whatever it might be, I think it's a fairly safe assumption to say that if you have a strong, stable frame rate, you have an advantage over someone who has a frame rate that's not as strong or as stable. And I think that's a fairly logical thing to assume. So you could argue that with, you know, these two versions of Forza Horizon 5, but if you look down here, Endwalker's back on this list.
At number 10.
But if I don't even think I haven't for the sake of... If I take a controller, here. If I take my PS5 controller and I connect it to my computer through Bluetooth, and I literally flick a switch in the game, I am playing FF14 on my PC exactly the same way as I would on my PS5. There is no difference. Like, nothing. Not even a little bit. So if I took the PS5, took my keyboard and mouse and plugged it into the PS5 and flicked the very same switch, I'm now playing exactly as it would be on my PC.
So at what point then do you have to just turn around and say it makes no goddamn difference? Why would you have two separate entries?
I see both sides of this, but on the other side of the argument, it would be how, I guess, they're rating it, how it's running on that particular console. So, you know, the PC, Steve might be running a really nice setup that some people might not have. And it just goes back to, like he said, like in Forza Horizon 5. I know friends that are playing on the Xbox Series X, and they're not performing the same way I am on my PC. So it might be a performance for that console is the reason why it's up there. They versed it to the performance on the PC.
But then a PC can't really be compared in that way because a PC is upgradable, and
easily,
it really depends on what parts you've got in it. You can't upgrade your console.
But more than that, like, my PS5 sits there. I have a really nice... I'm not flexing here. There's a reason I'm bringing this up. I have a 50-inch 4K display, right? A 4K TV. And the PS5 outputs to that at 60 FPS.
And the refresh rate in itself.
Well, I was really fortunate, and I am flexing with this one, to get a 2K 144Hz monitor for Christmas from Santa Claus.
Ooh, that's nice.
Sadly, I didn't get to play all of Endwalker on it, but the frame rate of it obviously is 144Hz. Now, for someone who wears glasses with terrible eyesight, or anybody else who's experienced sitting in front of a 144Hz monitor playing at a solid 144Hz, the difference between that and 60 is massive. I would argue more the difference between the experience of playing, for me personally, a higher frame rate is a better experience than a bigger resolution. Going from 2K to 4K isn't as impressive as going from 60 FPS to 144 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree, but it's just like the PlayStation itself, it'll never reach that full 144 hertz like capability because there's a cap on it somewhere around the 70 to 80 hertz. So the refresh rate on there is never going to be the same as the PC can put out. So you could essentially, in theory, plug your PC up to your gigantic 55-inch TV, and it's going to look 1,000 times better with the same game, but through the PC on that same TV.
But locked at 60 FPS.
Yeah, you sacrifice. I don't think I would sacrifice my FPS. I prefer to have my frames versus that big huge quality. Yes, a 55-inch is nice, but I can play on a less than 30-inch monitor at 144 hertz and be very, very happy.
True.
But then, using the same logic, why would people who are professional game reviewers, remember, rating one version of the game in 93 and the other version of the same game in 91, okay, it's 2 points of a difference, but the point is there is a difference. Yeah. So, at this point, you could then argue that a professional game reviewer's opinion on this is just as subjective as the person playing it as the consumer, right?
Yeah.
You would hope.
No. You raise a very good point there, because to take this to another extreme, we know that Disco Elysium, the final cut, was at number 1 on this list, right? Mm-hmm. That's the PC version. Well, it doesn't show back up on this list again until 23 for the PlayStation 5. So you go from a 97 score on the PC all the way down to an 89 on the PlayStation 5. That might
very well be like... Okay. Did you ever play Halo Wars?
I did, yes.
Yes.
On Xbox.
I mean, on the Xbox.
Have you played literally any other RTS?
Yes, it was exactly the same.
Which would you rather play?
Like, I remember playing, what was it? Command & Conquer on PS1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I played, that was an amazing game, I loved it. Then when I played Halo Wars on Xbox, I was immediately reminded of that game because it was all the same trappings. But it was, I don't know, it felt better and cleaner, as well as it should, because it was like, 3 consoles ahead. But I don't know. It was... I couldn't tell. I couldn't say to you that when I played that game, and I will put it on both because I played Command & Conquer on PC and on PlayStation, and I did the exact same thing with Halo Wars on Xbox and PC. I couldn't feasibly tell you the difference between either game on either console.
But I think the difference there is it's... RTS has been the obvious example with this. The bonus of an RTS and using a mouse to control that sort of a game versus using a gamepad is non-comparative.
True.
As good a job as the likes of, like, when I played Halo Wars, one of the biggest things that stuck out with me was I can't believe how good they've made it considering it's on a console. Like the control scheme, the way they actually thought about it. But like, I went into that game expecting it to be shit because it's an RTS on a console.
Do you know what? I agree, and I'm gonna go with side PC nerd here. Age of Empires 2. I've only ever played that on console. And that was fucking fantastic. I enjoyed that so much. I've tried to play it on PC since, and ironically, I just can't get into it because using the mouse, which is easier, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would argue the opposite. I think that, like I have my controller sitting here, and I'll plug it in for a couple of different games. Like I'd play Soul Calibur with a controller. I'd play a racing game with a controller. I'd probably even play a fighting game with a controller. Mm-hmm. But if I was playing an FPS, an RTS, an MMO, keyboard and mouse all the way. Yeah. I was playing Rocket League, I'd use a keyboard and mouse. I can't use a controller with Rocket League. And I know that's controversial as fuck, because apparently controller players are better. But...
well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, some games are optimized for that, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
But RTSs are absolutely optimized for PC. And I've got to be fair, it's only Age of Empires that I've done this with. A similar game, like similar style of game that I used to really love was Rome Total War.
I was going to get on to the Total War series, and also just to get a cap on the end there is like the 4X strategy games.
Mm-hmm. Like, if you put those on a console, I probably wouldn't be able to play them. And I guess it's probably just how I got used to it, how I got used to each game. I think that's probably...
I hear you talking about plugging the controller into a PC, but that's just like kind of like Call of Duty. I know people that play Call of Duty on a PC with a controller because you get the helping aid
aim assist,
a controller, but you get the performance of a PC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that. You also get people that play mobile shooters, mobile shooters, and emulators on the PC, and just wreck face because they're on keyboard and mouse or a controller or whatever, because obviously the hardware is different. But there is an interesting thing here with the reviews here. Again, going by the whole discussion of a Metacritic or any other critic score, why would you rate Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker on the PS5 higher than the one on the PC, yet give the one on the PC this must-play badge, which I assume is some additional award from Metacritic, yet it's lower rated than PS5 version? Doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense at all, because why if the other game is better, would that not be a must-play as well? Like, surely you've got to concede that the one that has the must-play badge is the better version.
The other thing here, number 11, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can plug, for example, a yoke into an Xbox One. I don't think you can plug...
I don't think you can, but I think Xbox has it where you can plug your mouse and keyboard. I'm not sure 100%.
For sure.
I know PlayStation just adapted it.
The whole point, like, if you pick up Microsoft Flight Simulator, right? As a game, it's beautiful. It's okay, this particular version of Microsoft Flight Simulator might have different arguments with it, but historically, if you picked up a flight simulator, it's because you might have an interest in flight. You may want to just fanny about inside a plane. You might want to, practice radio comms. I know there's a lot of people that use like the VATSIM network and stuff, purely to, they play as ETC, for example. They don't even have a copy of the game. They have software that sits separate, and all the simmers kind of, come together and go through various networks and what have you. But you would have thought that if Metacritic are sitting here and they're reviewing Microsoft Flight Simulator, outside of all its technological achievement with Bing Maps and all that kind of stuff, Bing Maps and technological achievement in the same sentence?
I know, that's fucking weird.
But why would they put the Xbox Series X version higher than the PC version? Because the PC version, as a simulator, has all this additional hardware you can plug into it, so it's like you're actually in a real flight simulator.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody was planning on a shittier PC setup. Maybe it felt smoother on that console than it did for some reason on a PC. That's about the only thing I can maybe see logically.
So let's flip this a bit here, because we've talked about this is the Metacritic score version. The other version is the user score, and it changes significantly. This list completely changes.
Well, let's flip it back and look at the 11 games we just looked at, or the 11 spots we've just looked at.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I just flipped that around. That's interesting.
Oh?
That's very interesting.
See, up the top, you've got Final Fantasy Endwalker twice. The PC
As it rightfully
version
should be,
is
let's
now
be
the
honest.
top one,
Yeah.
as what it should be. But then I'm not seeing Disco Elysium anywhere near that.
Maybe that's what it is, Simon. Maybe at the end of the day, it is just a case of reviewers just simply can't be trusted. Or, perhaps more, or depressingly, they just get it wrong. Or, their boss has turned around and went, here's a copy of Disco Elysium, review it. Because we're getting paid to do a review. Not getting paid necessarily, I'm not saying they're shill media or anything to actually throw down a good or bad score, but I don't think for a second there's not deals out there happening where it's like, please review our game. You know, it's publicity at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, could you imagine someone goes, I'm going to buy my kid a game for Christmas. I'm going to go on to Metacritic because I've heard about that in the news, and I'm going to sort it by the best game out there. Oh wow, Disco Elysium's the best game out there. I'm going to buy that for my kid because it's the best game of 2021.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have some very strong feelings on The Last of Us as a series. I love the stories that's being told. Like, I love the story, but I hate the game because it's absolutely nothing new.
The problem
I've seen the game 1,001 times in the Tomb Raider series by Square Enix, in the Uncharted series. I've seen it in every game that has this action adventure, third person cover based shooting puzzle 'em up. There's nothing new to that game, but it has a very nice story. And I'm not saying the game is shit at all, not by a long shot. It's a good game, but it doesn't deserve the hype that it got.
But you know, Doc, the problem, right? And I need to very, 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 case in point, I need to be very careful with the next words I select, and I have to say them in a very particular way here. And the very reason I'm having to be cautious about what I'm trying to say here is kind of the point I'm making. You cannot criticize The Last of Us 2 without a certain group of people calling you a bigot or a sexist or a transphobe or a homophobe, whatever it might be. You cannot criticize a game. Like, if I turned around and said, I didn't like The Last of Us 2, Steve, that's because you're a white male. And that, sadly, is the response that game was pretty much pushing. So you end up in a position where Ghost of Tsushima, which was the better game, nobody would want to sit there and they hailed The Last of Us 2 as this amazing pinnacle of gaming. For one of two reasons. They're either scared of criticizing it and getting called an ism and a nigget and all the rest of it, or they wanted to be shown to be, you know, iron. What's the phrase? Virtue signal.
Yeah. Like,
You know.
So
here's my
I played
problem.
both of those games. I played both of those.
Mhm.
I like Last of Us 2. I love the storyline. I love what they did with it. But there was something about the animations and the way the graphics were in the Ghost of Tsushima. It was just it set it off more for me, which made me lean towards more to that game. Not to say that The Last of Us 2 wasn't a great game. Did it give some heart tuggers? Yeah, I don't like the way a certain person was killed off. But the way that it was done was beautiful. Game was solid.
Here's the thing, and this is pretty much where my point comes across. I liked the story was great. Can't wait to see it on TV. But I've played that game 1,000 times before, and I have no interest in playing another one like it. I don't understand why Tomb Raider, a functionally identical game to The Last of Us 2, was given such a trouncing compared to a game that plays pretty much exactly the same. It's a stealth action, third-person, cover-based puzzle up. They are the same game, just with a different tone.
I have a question about the TV series. It's interesting you bring it up. But honest to God, hand on heart, and I know this might trigger some people. After all, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and God of War are the same game, obviously. But I honestly think you would walk past The Last of Us on TV, sit down and go, I haven't seen this episode of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I would be inclined to agree with you.
But it's not...
To a point.
Obviously, they're not the same, but it's not a hop, skip, and a jump away either.
No. See, when I'm a big fan of zombie media in general, love zombie stuff. It's one of my favorite things in the world. But when I want to watch something that's different within the same genre, I take a tonal shift. So The Walking Dead is my serious one. That's the one I like for the post-apocalyptic feel, where there's all of that, you know, just despair and hopelessness counteracted by human interaction and how they can actually be better than, you know, they were in a world that was consumed by, you know, consumerism, technology, and all that stuff. That I love. I love that human struggle element. If I wanted to watch something else, I went to Z Nation, which was effectively an almost parody of what a zombie apocalypse would be like, where they explore some of the same themes but with a comedic view on them.
Almost sounds like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, but wackier. Quite honestly, much wackier. So that's what I go to for, like, my zombie media. It's just, it needs to be different. Whereas The Last of Us I'm interested in because I enjoyed the story of The Last of Us 1, and I know they're going to touch on the story of The Last of Us 2 in that show as well. But I just don't want to pick up the game. I have no intention of picking up the game, so I'm just going to watch the story rather than play it.
I can see why you would say that, but I would say that if it was ever out there for a lower price, or if it just so happened to be free, which they probably will end up doing it because PlayStation is known to do something like that.
If it comes out,
I would say pick it up.
If it comes out on PC and it's got a really low price, I'll give it a shot. But
I would say give it a shot because the game, to me, it wasn't disappointing. It could have had some more. They could have done more after what they did in the game.
Mhm.
And there's like parts and bits of it that was a little bit lacking, but they did really good with it nevertheless.
I feel like the innovation that the game had, and let's not beat about the bush. There was some innovation in that game, but it was completely irrelevant.
I can agree.
Their innovation was now every NPC has a name.
The clicker.
No. I mean,
here's
literally every
question.
NPC human character had a name, and if you were to kill one, then the others in the group would go, "Oh no, Charlie's dead," and then they would start acting
it gave you that reason to like connect with it. Like I feel like when you play a game, you need some kind of connection.
Which is great for the story element of it. You're right. Which again leads back into my previous argument, but it was kind of an irrelevant thing.
True.
Because they could have just gone, "You killed my friend," and achieved the exact same thing.
Yeah, but you killed Charlie.
Well,
You don't know Charlie's life. Charlie could have been a great guy.
Yeah, Charlie could have been a great guy, but he was trying to kill me, so I don't care. I've still not connected. Like,
True.
it's. But then the
But
real
sometimes, have you ever
innovation,
played a
the
game,
thing
you
that I
kill
think
somebody and they say that? Like, seriously, have you ever played a game, you kill somebody and they go, "You just killed one of my best friends." And you're like, okay, whatever. But then you flip the script and you say, "You just killed my friend Charlie." And it's like, oh yeah? Well, fuck Charlie.
Yeah, I suppose. I think that still doesn't really make much of a difference for me, though. And I'm going to give it props here now, though, because the bit of innovation I think didn't get enough attention, and that was actually really fucking good, was the accessibility that they added when they were able to use color to help people who had hearing difficulties.
True.
And I thought that way of bringing people in for like accessibility, that innovation deserved to be shouted from the hilltops, but it wasn't.
You speak of innovation, right? And I think I'm gonna for the sake of discussion, let's lay this down some ground rules for common sort of ground here, right?
Yes.
When a sequel happens, I think there's a few things that are taken for granted.
Mhm.
It's not always, but you generally know what you're in for with a sequel. I understand sometimes there's genre flips and all right, but let's exclude those for the sake of example, right?
Mhm.
You would expect better graphics because time has passed, technology has improved, yada yada. You could argue that the sound design should be better because people would be able to dial it in after the first game. Feedback from the first game would allow you to do more or less or whatever. Accessibility options would improve based on feedback again from the first game because you're in a position of having it. Great example would be the difference between Atro when we wiped and before we wiped. We know what players liked, we know what players didn't like. We made differences, changes. But then, if you release a sequel like The Last of Us 2, and I haven't played it, I have a copy of The Last of Us 2 here, it is still in the cellophane. I have no intention of actually playing said game. If you want it, Doug, you're welcome to it.
What console is it?
PS4.
PS4? I could borrow a PS4.
But that aside, you say there's no innovation, but let's look at a game, two games in particular, one that is the sequel of the other, where, excluding the things I've just said, graphics, accessibility, sound, etc., there's not a lot of innovation. Elder Scrolls 4, Elder Scrolls 5. Okay, the biggest thing that springs to my mind, what's the difference between Oblivion and Skyrim? You can dual wield.
Was that was the big thing?
It's the first thing that springs to mind.
Wow.
Realistically speaking,
there is
it's...
also, I would say that compare the Elder Scrolls 4 and the Elder Scrolls 5, I would say the biggest change would actually be the speechcraft and the speech system, because my God, was that awful in Elder Scrolls 4. Like, I couldn't play that game past the first hour because
they had that
I went
shitty
back over
mini
to
game
it,
with
admittedly,
the face
but
changing.
because I was
depending
so
on what you
used
liked.
to Skyrim, I couldn't play it. It was so bad.
Did you call it Skyrim?
Sorry,
I mean,
I said, did you just call it Skyrim?
Skyrim. Well, I mean, Skyrim is what Steve does to people who fly too low in a helicopter. But
I thought you said you referred to it as Skyrim.
well, yeah, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim.
So is the Speechcraft in 5 bad or is Speechcraft in 4 bad?
4.
That was the one with the wheel that you had to select, like...
Yes, that dialogue system, I should say, not Speechcraft. But
So, what was the Speechcraft system in 5?
I
Did
mean,
you not just
apparently
remove
better.
it and make it RNG?
I'm pretty sure it was like rather than having to guess what combination of different unconnected things would score you points in this conversation, you now effectively have an option to say something that would either work or not work based on your stat level.
So it sounded like you just wanted it to be easier.
No, it's not that I wanted it to be easier. I just didn't want it to be as frustratingly stupid.
But
I shouldn't have to say the same thing 5 times in order to get to gain a point. Is the example?
But Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, right? And I am going memory here. It's been a wee while since I played Skyrim, but I'm pretty sure if you try to persuade, intimidate, etc., somebody in Skyrim, you click the option, and behind the scenes, it's an RNG that happens, plus your Speechcraft modifier against some sort of value against whatever NPC you're talking about that determines a pass or fail on what you're trying to do, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So there's no minigame. So one could argue that Speechcraft is a step backwards. They've taken out the complexity.
If you're going to look at it in terms of innovation, absolutely. But in terms of enjoyability and in terms of user friendliness, I guess is the word I'm going to have to use, it added a much better element to the game because you didn't have to stop your conversation to try and say random things that were completely unconnected.
But
sometimes innovation doesn't work, and I think that was one of those situations where it didn't.
But going back to an earlier discussion, the FIFA, again, the example we used, we say shouts, but we'll address shouts because I think Sally mentioned shouts. Shouts is basically just another magic. You could take out the whole Dovahkiin thing, you could take out the whole lore thing with the dragons, and you could just add shouts just purely as a magic skill and people wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's cool. You can shout. That's that. It is sadly just another form of magic. Now, if we assume that for a second, and if I assume we agree on that...
Yeah, no, I do.
That's what I mean. Skyrim is hailed as one of the best games ever made. Oblivion, equally so. Mm-hmm. Perhaps not equally so, but it's certainly up there. I don't see people turning around losing their fucking mind at the fact that Skyrim, they waited years for after Oblivion. I'm sure Skyrim, and I'm gonna go full hockey, I'm sure Oblivion was 2006 because that was the year the Xbox 360 came out. I remember it being one of the games you could get at the start of the 360's run. And I'm pretty certain Skyrim was 2010 or 11. It might have been 11 for Skyrim. I recall something about it because the 10-year anniversary just happened. So I'm sure it was 11 for Skyrim. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see a single person turn around and go, this is just the same game with better graphics, better sound, new story, new environment, all these things that we take for granted to have a sequel that you expect to be there, but you could dual wield. Realistically, I think that genuinely was the only difference. Now, I'm not saying Skyrim's bad.
No.
But we look at FIFA doing exactly the same thing, and for the most part, people are pissed off to fuck with it. Maybe it's the frequency the game comes out, but...
I guess that's because they're asking you for so much money so frequently.
Yeah, maybe so.
But I mean, technically speaking, what you're saying is not wrong at all, because they did do the same. And in fairness to a previous statement that I did make, they've took away a piece of innovation from a previous that was present in a previous one, for better or worse, and they've added one small thing of dual wield. Okay, I compare that to the Sims 3, Sims 4, which again, years and years apart. Technically speaking, what you've got is a future version of the game with less in it than its predecessor.
There is one thing about the Sims argument, though, that kind of works in Sims 4 benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played Sims 3 when it's all singing and dancing?
Yes, I have.
How many FPS do you get?
It's on my computer.
It lags, dude. It lags hard. It's badly optimized. It's like, even now, right? Sims 3 came out 2008, I think it was. Should just be trivia. Let's just quiz Steve on what your games came out. I've got a bad memory. Good memory for that.
You pretty much nailed it for Elder Scrolls, by the way. It was March 2006.
Was it really? Nice one.
Yeah.
But it's 2022. If I load up my Sims 3 anthology with all the expansion packs in it, I might get 60 FPS some of the time.
No, you've got a point. You've got a point. So, I mean, in the Sims 4's defense, less content though it had, it did run better. Cannot be argued. You take away the technological aspect of Sims 3, things like swimming pools, toddlers, stuff that is inexcusable not to be there, stuff that was clearly cut to be sold back later is inexcusable. Yes, that was terrible.
The biggest casualty, I think, was the creator style that you could do in Sims 3.
Where you could literally...
You just cannot do that in Sims 4. It just doesn't exist. You've got 4 versions of every furniture and that's it. And
you could literally... you could swatch a style onto your clothing. If you wanted to look like a pair of, I don't know, your grandma's curtains and have that as a jacket, you could. Whereas now you've got whatever's on the color, and there's not every piece of clothing has multiple color options. Some of them have very limited color options.
You have jeans that are black or jeans that are blue, and that's it.
It's a huge step backwards in that respect. But they didn't patch it back in at all. They just went, nah, fuck it.
So I think, between sequels, some things can be cut and it's good. For example, the speechcraft in Oblivion versus the speechcraft in Skyrim.
Yeah.
But using the Elder Scrolls as an example further, did you play Morrowind?
Oh god, I haven't played that yet. But
one of the biggest things, technically it's the same system. You could craft anything. You could craft spells. You could craft spells that you could use that would jump you from one end of the map to the other. You could make magic swords that when it hit something, the entire room would just ricochet and explode and kill everybody. You had to get the skills to use it, you had to get the bits and pieces to put together to do it, but you could do it. And you could do it to the point of it was game breaking.
That's actually really exciting. And you've just sold the game to me even more.
You start Morrowind, and I could actually envision the whole thing. You come off the boat, as you do. You're a prisoner, obviously.
Well, of course, yeah.
You're let free for no inexplicable reason. You walk out of the place, up past the shop. Anyone that's played Morrowind knows exactly where I'm going with this. And you walk around and you turn to the left slightly, you walk down a road, and you just hear someone yelling. And then this mage falls from the sky and just absolutely bloaters the ground. Game over. Dead. So you walk over to the mage and you're like, oh shit, what's he got here? And he has, and I'm pretty sure, it's free levitation scroll.
There it is.
Well, he has something, and I think the name of it, don't quote me on this, I think the name is It's something like this. It's a scroll or a tome of boundless leaps or something. It's called.
Yes, yeah, I've heard.
You
about
use this. Speedrunners use it all the time. You use this, and it just launches you. Absolutely. This is what the mage evidently had used to just kill himself with. It launches you across the map, and you die, and that's it. You've been playing the game 30 seconds, dead. And it's brilliant.
I mean, that's great, because that's kind of set up the idea that you can craft all of these spells, but it also is showing you what will happen if you get those that you craft that spell wrong.
Sometimes
like, not everything is going to work well for you.
Sometimes the environment of Morrowind, you would find yourself, maybe perhaps you've fallen off a cliff or slid down a mountain or whatever, and you're stuck. And it's not the first time in memory that I've looked where I want to be, look where I'm at, and I look in my inventory and I've got these scrolls and I go, what's the chances I can jump out of this hole and land where I want to land? Not once have I ever been able to do anything close to what I'd like to be able to do with it, but it's good fun.
See, this has actually given me a possible realization that I have a feeling when they were crafting together Fallout 4, they wanted to see what it would be like if you could survive that huge drop. Which is why when you put on a set of power armor, you could literally fall from the highest thing in the map and not die. And I feel like that was put in there for a bloody reason.
I reckon so. But it seems like, and this is maybe part of what some of these charts show, that games become simpler over time.
Yeah.
They're becoming less and less and less complicated. And that's either they're becoming less complicated or perhaps, and I don't think this is it, but perhaps maybe we become more, what's the word? We become better at games. We become trained almost to play these games.
Yeah.
You know, a good example, you know, you watched me playing 14 yesterday. And you look at that trial versus what Ifrit is. You know, the first trial that you do in 14 when you fight Ifrit, his whole thing is he's got some AoEs around that you got to walk out of. There's a nail, a single thing that spawns in the middle of the map, and you need to kill it before he gets to a certain percentage of health or he'll wipe you. And that's as complicated as the mechanics get.
Yeah.
And that's the whole fight. You look at what I was doing yesterday, and granted, that's not the highest end content, but it's not that far off it. And there's no way you could, I mean, with Quarzy and Soap, for example, playing through Heavensward just now, they very much see like the evolution of all of the fights and all the bits and pieces that they do as you would naturally expect.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't think we as collective gamers, in inverted commas, sorry, one second, what is this music?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I've been hearing it, but I've no idea where it's coming from.
I can tell you where it's coming from, I just don't know. It's classical guitar. Okay, cool stuff. But I think that, like, us as gamers in inverted commas, I don't think that we are becoming more trained to play games better. I just think, honestly, they're just getting easier. They're getting less complicated.
Yeah. I would say so, but I mean, that's to our detriment in a way, because, like, a game should naturally... The learning curve of a game should naturally teach you everything that you need to know as you go through. Usually teaching you everything you need to know within the first, let's say, third of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the game is a test of how well you've learned those skills. getting up to the final boss where it will teach you, it will see how well you can use all of those skills together. We don't have that anymore. Now we have a very formulaic, and in some cases cop-out final boss. Dark Souls will be the exception to this, because Dark Souls hates you and wants to punish you for ever being complacent as a gamer.
Here's the thing, right? Just Souls games, and it's an unpopular opinion, but I feel quite strongly on it. Big health numbers and big damages does not make a game hard.
No, it doesn't.
You take any game, and I literally mean any game, and you give it the Souls treatment, makes it hard, in inverted commas.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, and I'll show you the difference between this, right? People go, it's because you don't have the skill, or you don't have the this, or you don't have the that, right?
Yeah.
I don't see the skill of, for example, exploiting iframes to dodge an attack that really should have hit me. But, okay, maybe there's a skill in that, and I accept that, right? Maybe there's a skill in being able to read a boss and dodge the right attacks, attack at the right time, etc., right? Okay, I accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But look at games like Shadow of the Colossus. Right?
Yeah.
You do all the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's slower because they're bigger.
Yeah.
There's maybe a wee bit of puzzle platforming elements in there when you're climbing up some of these big ones.
Absolutely.
But I would argue that, for me at least, and this is purely subjective, Shadow of the Colossus is a far more rewarding title than any Souls game, Born like whatever. But yeah, I appreciate that is absolutely subjective, but
yeah,
it doesn't make people always go on about how they put these games on pedestals about how much difficult they are and what skill level you need to be and how punishing they are. And
I mean, to be honest though, I can pick out, and again, I'm going to go back to Final Fantasy X, because this is one of those games that really kind of dominated my childhood and kind of made me into a gamer, I guess. But there was a particular boss in that, just after you've met Seymour for the first time.
mm-hmm.
I believe you're in... I can't remember the name of the place. The Calmlands or something? I can't remember what it's called. But you've got a sin spawn that you're trying to defeat, and it's this big buggering crab scorpion thing, which, for whatever reason, you can either beat it or you can push it off the edge, I think, is the way it goes. But it kind of poisoned your party and all of that stuff. My point is, that was just as rewarding a battle for me, because you could figure out an almost algorithm. You kind of knew what it was going to do, and once you'd figured that out, you can exploit it. And there is that same pounding your head against a brick wall sort of thing when you miscalculate, in the same way that is that pounding your head against a brick wall sort of thing when you mistime a dodge roll or a parry in Dark Souls. They both have their skill to them, and they could both be sort of exploited to an extent.
Well, let me touch on that for a second, right? Let's say that you're fighting a boss, you're playing Dark Souls 4, whatever it might be, and big sword comes down, and the only way you're going to be able to avoid that is you roll at the right time to get your iframe for it, right? Arguably, say that's the situation. Say you cock that up. I got incredibly frustrated when I was playing a Souls game, Dark Souls 1, 2, whatever it was. And I think people, and you see it all the time on YouTube and Twitch and so on, where people do get frustrated when they mess this sort of shit up. But what's the difference between you being unable to dodge that sword by timing it the right way versus jumping a chasm in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and falling to your death. Yet somehow, the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 player is sitting ready to throw his controller at the window. He goes, shit, and tries again. I've never, ever, ever seen anyone ever rage at Sonic. Ever. Yet, I can tell you right now, and it comes to mind clear as day, the most frustrating part of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is in the second level. I should say second stage, the chemical plant zone. There is a part where there's a gap, Sonic standing here, he needs to get here, and in the middle, there are two platforms that are going bonk, bonk. I'm just going to watch someone clip a bonk, bonk out of context, and that'll be really funny. But you have to get Sonic to jump from here onto a moving platform, walk across to the other one while they're still doing this, and for some reason that's really hard to do on the Genesis or the Mega Drive, and then jump off the other end. Immensely frustrating. You fall in the water, fuck it, you're dead, try again.
Yeah. Whereas you look at a slightly later platformer in Crash Bandicoot, and I can tell you absolutely that people rage like shit whenever they play that.
I love Crash Bandicoot, but I'm just like Duck said, you rage trying to play that game.
And yet, it's technically speaking the same thing. It's those moments where a platform is coming towards you, and then you've got to time it right. And if you miss it, you bug it.
But you know what?
Couldn't you fight that in the same sense as Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, I think the difference though is quite clear. Because I'm going to say one word with Crash Bandicoot, and I bet you both of you are going to go, yeah. I'm going to say camera.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't argue that one.
There is a point to this, because I think gamers get frustrated when it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Because I have definitely been in a situation where the camera has fucked me up more than enough times.
You look at the example given for Sonic the Hedgehog, if those platforms don't change speed. If you fuck that up, you fuck that up. True. If you're playing Crash Bandicoot and you're running from the boulder or whatever, right, and you've got a terrible camera angle, you're fucked and the game is fucking you over. If you're having to exploit iframes to kill your boss in Dark Souls 2, the game is fucking you over.
I would just like to address what they've said in the chat there. I have and absolutely get fucked. That's that game can absolutely screw you over with your camera angles. You are totally right. But I can honestly say that they never frustrated me nearly as much as Crash Bandicoot did.
But does this not bring us into an interesting point then, where the game itself is actively working against you? Because the gamer is getting frustrated because it doesn't matter how well they think they've done, their perception, and I think it's important we say it's the perception, is that the game is fucking them over.
Yeah.
If I'm on what Crash Bandicoot, you could be running from something and all of a sudden the camera just flips on you.
Mm-hmm.
It just 180s and then you're looking the opposite way and you still have to run. Because I've been in a situation where you're running and all of a sudden you turned around, you're running out the boulder at that point.
Yeah. And that was what frustrated me with Resident Evil to an extent, because you would round the corner, the camera would change, and suddenly your character's running at a wall now instead of the direction he was going.
Okay, so you remember Resident Evil 4, right?
Yes.
The button mashing,
mm-hmm.
and then how little of a time you had to press that button that corresponded with it. I played it on the PlayStation 2 days, so it was like R1 and L1. You didn't hit them at the exact same time to dive out of the way. You were going to get crushed by the boulder. But it seemed like the more you did it, the faster you had to be.
No, it's true. That is true. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Was it Saitama? Loved the name. Is it Saitama, but with an N? I don't know. You're right that it was literally designed that way for a purpose. Whereas I don't think it was designed that way on Crash Bandicoot. I think that was just a technical limitation.
I think Crash Bandicoot's camera was not intended to be as frustrating as it is. No. And I think that, and this is my genuine thought, right? I think that Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and various games of similar nature, Demon Souls, whatever you want to call it, I think that people get jumped on so much because they are bad at the game that they want to keep trying at it. And I genuinely believe it encourages lazy development, because why bother making something really interesting? You just got to make a cool ass animation that you got to dodge. But actually, there's no real... The strategy, the element of it, goes away from the design of the game and falls more to how the player copes with whatever they've just thrown at them.
No, that's a fair point. That's fair.
I won't argue that, though. Like, you really can't argue that.
You know, and then to... Again, I'm not trying to convince the nation here or something, but I think to turn around and say that makes a good game, not by my definition of what makes a good game for that reason, you know? If you're the appearance in this is the perception is this is not, I imagine, how the devs of these games actually function, where they just go make a cool animation and let the players deal with it.
Yeah. I think that's just how Uncharted went.
I loved Uncharted. Uncharted was a solid series. Uncharted 2 is probably one of my favorite games.
You could be forgiven, I think, of like assuming that, like, Ark's a great example. Ark Survival Evolved, right? Most games have a difficulty curve, line, whatever it might be. Ark doesn't give a shit. It's just like straight up. Like, and it just expects the player to adapt.
Ark is a very big middle finger to the player if you're not willing to put that time and effort in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. Like,
I think that's what turned me off of Ark, though, was because I didn't play it with friends and I didn't have people to play it with. So you tend to be able to do more or survive longer with friends versus by yourself in that game, until you get to a certain point where you're able to hold your own.
Yeah.
So I think that's what turned me away from that game, though I will never take away from the fact that I've had some very interesting and fun times in Ark. Getting attacked by random shit.
I guess the conclusion that we can draw here in this podcast, this topic, is that neither reviewers or users are completely to be trusted when you're trying to choose a video game. Because
I'm 100% agree with that, because I've played games that, like Battlefield 2042. Everyone has their opinion on it. Steve, I know you said multiple times you just don't like it to the point of some of the things that they've changed. But it's still, like, to me, I like the way it functioned. I wouldn't tell somebody that don't listen to Steve and don't listen to me. You need to, I would tell somebody, play it for yourself and see how you feel. Because Steve might not like it for those factors. I might like it for my factors. Somebody else might see something completely different on both sides.
Yeah, it's true. So, that's what we're taking from this. Make your own minds up, people. Play the games you want to play.
Just don't play Fall Guys. Sorry, let's talk about the most...
No, but I will say, just to kind of close remarks here, if I was to go buy a game, I would probably go with the user score more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Than I would with the actual critic score. But then, the flip side to that, and to touch on Battlefield 2042 as an example, Irish, if he's in chat, will pipe up, no doubt, because I'm going to use him as an example. He hails that it's the best Battlefield game ever made.
No.
But buyer's remorse is a thing. I have a list here, I kid you not, of
don't regret buying Battlefield 2042. I don't regret it, but I will say it's nowhere near the best Battlefield. To me, I loved Battlefield 3. It was by far my favorite Battlefield.
The problem I have with 2042, like a lot of games, especially when it's a sequel of a sequel of a sequel of a sequel, you expect, and I don't think you're wrong to expect, I don't think you're entitled, I don't think you're being an evil person if you expect something from a long-running franchise for it to be, I'm not going to say identical to a previous game, because I think that then leads to lack of innovation, but to have a core number of concepts ticked. And 2042 just straight up doesn't have any of these things. I have a list here, and I kid you not, and I'll run through them incredibly quickly just for the sake of example, of things that Battlefield 2042 does not have that previous games does that you would expect a Battlefield title to have. You don't have a single player campaign mode. You don't have the ability to browse servers in a browser. There's fewer game modes than in any other game released. There's no hardcore mode. There's no persistent lobbies. There's no classes. There's less character customization. There's no profile pages. There's no battle logs. There's no stats tracker. There's no global leaderboards. There's no dog tags that you can steal off of players. There's no custom emblems that you can make on your profile for your kill shots. No cross-game profile. No spectator mode. No permanent community servers. No central servers based in the US, strangely. There's no testing range where you can go change all the various guns. There's fewer guns, in fact, than in any previous games, fewer infantry gadgets. There's no ability to manually lean around the corner, for example. You can't dive while you're swimming. You can't move while you're doing prone ADS. You can't vault a high wall. You can't sprint while you crouch. You can't move backwards when you prone. There's no knockback from explosions. There's no rolling after falling from a height. There's no ammo or health that you can pick up off of teammates. You can't zero a scope in or change the range. Right? You can't pause a reload. You don't have thermals, don't exist. There's no indirect fire gadgets. There's less anti-tank launchers. There's no lock-on launchers. There's no AP mines or claymores. I think that's actually been patched in. I think there are now claymores. There's no suppression mechanic. That's been a Battlefield staple for years. You shoot near somebody, their screen goes all hazy. No suppression mechanic. No first-person takedown animations. And it goes on. There's vehicles, there's scoring system, there's squad and teamwork, there's maps, there's UI and quality of life, there's audio issues. Like, it goes on. There are hundreds of things missing from 2042 that you expect in a Battlefield game. And I don't think it's fair to call it a Battlefield game if it doesn't have what you expect a Battlefield game to have.
Mm-hmm. That just sounds like... It sounds like somebody's tried to make a Battlefield game and forgot what the hell it is. Like...
like, even just like looking down, like some random stuff here, right? Stuff you would expect to have. There's no squad wipe bonus. There's no player damage points. There's no vehicle damage points. There's no vehicle kill assist. There's no headshot bonuses. There's no long range kill with a marksman rifle. There's no assists.
You know, Steve's rambling off all these things, and he did ramble off another thing. But you know, the biggest thing that really irritated me about Battlefield 2042 was no scoreboard in the game to compare to the other team.
But there's no commander anymore. They took that mechanic all the way out. There's no special squad call mechanics. There's no in-game VoIP. There's no cross-team chat. You can't change your team. You can't make a new squad. You can't switch squads. So squads are smaller.
Again, I'll ask, what are you paying for?
The name. It's honestly, you're paying for the name Battlefield. And don't get me wrong though, like, since it came out, they fixed some things. Like the sniper rifle had an issue to where if you had like a ×8 scope on your rifle, it would come back after a few times you looking down sight and reloading. It would go to like a 2x scope. Then now what I did like is the fact that you could change attachments on the go while you're playing, but you would essentially have to take the scope off the gun, do that whole animation, wait, do the animation to put it back on the gun. look
Even
down
that
through
was
it, and then you might
busted,
end up
mate.
doing that another 10 times whilst you're playing.
If
It
you
was
put
annoying.
attachments on the gun, right, it actually negatively affected your gun.
Yeah.
What?
Like, it was broken beyond all comprehension. This game easily is a year, maybe even 2 years away from how it should have been at launch. It's missing so many things.
I'd have to incline to agree just because of the way some of the mechanics were working. Though they've fixed a small portion of them, they had a lot of downsides. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they had a hovercraft that was scaling mountains and buildings.
Do you know,
While
the
you'd
hovercraft thing
be on the top of a 100-story building, and all of a sudden you hear a very loud like roar, and you look over, and there's a hovercraft peeking the edge, and you're like, "Dude, I'm 100 floors up. How the hell did you get up here?"
And they're just fucking gliding up the side of the building.
But here's the thing, right? The whole hovercraft thing. They still drive up the side of buildings. Do you know what they did to fix the problem?
What?
They removed the flag takeover point at the top of that building. They didn't fix the hovercrafts, they just removed the conquest point so that they didn't have to fight over it with hovercrafts at the top of the building.
Well, that's just silly.
Admittedly, I think now you do have a lock-on rocket.
I do believe they ended up bringing that in.
It's mental.
It does fuck all, because every goddamn aircraft and hovercraft and vehicle has some kind of deterrent from it. So as soon as you fire one, he disappears behind a building or something. You never see him again.
But the thing, like, and again, obviously I'm not a fan of 2042. I wanted to be so much. I got so hyped when I seen the trailer. I was really, really wanting it. But, like, there is so much missing from this. I really struggle to understand how anybody could genuinely sit there and go, this is a good game. Like, because it's not a Battlefield game. But
it's not the funnest, and it's not a great game, but if you're still with a group of friends, you can make it a funny time. Therefore, that makes it enjoyable. But again, on a solo game like that, which is what you could essentially do back in the day, you could play it by yourself in a helicopter, a jet, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't do that because it's the mechanics to it is just, to me, kind of shit.
But the thing is, like, the devs, I say the devs, it's obviously not the devs' fault. It's the bosses making the decisions, not the devs. They don't sit there and make their own decisions. I get that. But rather than actually sit and fix the core issue, for example, hitboxes. Have you seen Angry Joe's video on hitboxes, dude? This is a game that is a player versus player game.
Garbage.
This is a player versus player game. Regardless of anything else, if you the most basic function of Battlefield is it's an FPS. That means I expect when I put a crosshair on somebody and all conditions are right and I click my left mouse button, I expect that person to be shot.
That is not the case.
That is the most basic, fundamental point of an FPS. You cannot get more basic than how an FPS functions. If you fuck that up, what chance do we fucking have, man?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
The thing, it's funny because he mentions that. I was in a Discord, I think we were all set in casual one morning, and I was playing it, and you said something about that, and I said, and I made myself eat my own words when I said it. I said, "Oh, I've never had any issues with that yet."
And you stood there.
As I said that, I shot it one guy like 5 or 6 times, and 4 or 5 of the bullets went through the person dead center of the chest. Never touched him.
It's an absolute wow. There's one game worse than 2042.
Yeah, well.
But I think this is outside the scope of what this is. We're not going to talk about definitive trilogy of Grand Theft Auto. I think that's a whole can of worms for another day on re-releases and rehashes.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. Let's not touch that now, because fuck my life.
Like, what's just not?
I mean, you want
far,
feedback?
but-
Can we talk about how RDR2 online tanked very badly, even though it was actually pretty decent?
Just because Rockstar abandoned it, mate. That's all that was.
It was, and it made me sad because it had so much potential, and I loved it because you didn't have the Mark II oppressors flying around, blowing you up every 30 seconds.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I think with that, I don't think there's much left we want to do here. I mean, we're approaching almost 3 hours, and I think, well, it's nearly 2. Well, it's past 2 a.m., so it's going to get on a bit.
I mean, holy hell. I don't think there's anything left to say. I think we've completely dissected the topic, and it's been autopsied. It's on a fucking slab right now.
Neatly laid out for all to see.
Yeah.
But guys in chat, what did you think of this? I mean, this obviously is the first time I've done anything like this. It's about longer than what I thought we were going to go for, but, you know, the conversation just went that way.
Yeah, but ain't that the whole point of a podcast? You start from somewhere. Being scripted in a podcast, to me, it doesn't feel genuine. This is more genuine. Like, you start on a subject, and you can move forward to different subjects throughout the whole time.
I think, arguably, we probably spoke about what's in the subject title least.
Probably,
yeah.
I think so.
That's what...
No, absolutely. Having a bit more chat interaction is fair.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
I think we kind of got caught up a little bit, if I'm honest.
It will help when we're starting to set a better time, right, than 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
True,
yeah.
That's also true.
Is this something you guys would want to see more of? Do you think we should keep this going? Obviously, with full technical expertise being applied to it.
100% professional.
Professional podcasters right here. A better overlay. Mate, there is no overlay. It's a background with some stuff added to it because we threw this together in 10 minutes.
Yep, we got in here, what was it, 10:30-ish y'all's time, and then within 15, 20 minutes, Steve said, I think I got this. Admittedly, everyone came to the agreement that it'll be better when we come back at this.
Yeah. But
yeah, we can do better than what we have here. I think this is just a session 0, and
this is our proof of concept.
This is the proof that we can do it.
Well, we held a viewer count throughout, so either people are just pity lurking, or they actually enjoyed what we were chatting about.
I mean, yeah, I'm if this is if you guys enjoyed this, then we're up for doing this. You'll need a name for this podcast. I'll tell you what. How about this? You said chat interaction. Why don't you name us?
That's a good idea.
I like that.
Let's submit your idea for a name for this podcast, right? In the Discord. Okay. And by the next one, we'll choose a name.
Might even be a YouTube comment, depending if people decide to stick this long. I would actually oh my god, I'm actually doing the thing. I was going to say, for the people on YouTube that are watching this, stick a comment in to say that you got this far, because we obviously don't want to sit here for hours and throw it up on YouTube if nobody actually gets this far to listen to it. So
this is true. True.
It's not necessarily a comment, like, and subscribe nonsense, but it's more genuine to see whether or not people actually want to sit and listen to this on YouTube, if we're even bothered, if there's even any point of us uploading it there.
This could be exclusive to over here.
Yeah, this may just be a Twitch thing, we'll see. But hi YouTube.
I mean, there is something to be said about having a version for YouTube, but I guess we'll have a look at the retention on this. We'll see what happens.
We can call it the Roe Jogan podcast. Sorry, Lyles?
What's that?
I says we could call it the Roe Jogan podcast.
Oh my god.
Real joking podcast.
We're not calling it
I'm
that.
not opposed to this.
Bloody hell, that'd be a series, wouldn't it?
I am not opposed to that.
I mean, yeah, no, I suppose there's something to be said for that. Kind of release it in parts across maybe the week.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it. See. I'm pretty sure I can set it up on the export for Twitch to go to YouTube and split it into like 15-minute segments or something.
Yeah, it's really inaccurate though. I'd rather do that manually so I can find a decent ending point for a topic.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to be like mid, and it's missing this, and it's missing that, and it's missing this, and it's like next video, and it's missing that, and it's missing this.
They'd be like, wait a minute, they were talking about this subject in the last one. So you see here.
Yeah, I think 3 hours is probably a bit long for YouTube. So maybe we have like an hour of topic and then allow our rambles for here.
I can agree with that. Yeah, normally when I see them on YouTube, it's about an hour. But I've watched YouTube podcast things that last hour 30, push 2.
I mean, there is also something to be said
yeah.
for ideas we've got for this anyway. We would actually like to talk to different members of the community, not just in the chat, but like actually invite you on from time to time to talk about things, maybe about the community, maybe get your input on a topic that we're talking about. So it's going to be a little bit more dynamic. I'll just ask for some chat for fuck's sake. Of course you will. So yeah, there'll be a guest features. Absolutely, we might talk to the devs at Atro just to see what they're working on. Maybe get some idea of what might be coming to the city. You know.
Hi, Papa.
So yeah, no, there'll be more to this than just simply the rambling. But I'm glad that you like that because it's going to be a lot of it.
It was quite, and it's the first time, as I say, I've done anything like this, and it was it was good. And I think that one of the biggest concerns I had with doing something like this is talking around in circles, or perhaps forgetting what you're about to say. You know, I find sometimes when I speak to people or I'm trying to get a point across, I derail what I was trying to say, or things get heated, or you know, it devolves into a screaming match. Not the way I'd expect that for you guys, but you know, it's quite an enjoyable thing to do, and it's not something I ever thought I would do, but we've maybe put some people to sleep. So
if anything, if nothing else, you are welcome for our lovely soothing voices.
And can I just
hear me out though, Steve? I think you can agree with this. You know, once a week you put in a couple of hours down to come in here and just chat, release, and, you know, wing it a little bit. It's actually kind of a relief, to be honest.
It's a bit cathartic.
I guess people don't get to see the monster.
That's right. Oh man, but that's what it is. A podcast is just hearing and listening to everything. So yeah, well, I mean, expect more.
Yeah.
Just don't expect it to be scripted.
Oh no.
That's what it should be called. Still unscripted.
Yeah. Oh god. I mean, I'm sure there's a joke in there, isn't there, for a script developer to be unscripted. Sure.
Not Brit's dev stream.
Hi, I'm Steve. Duck. I'm gonna see y'all in support room for talking to OC in this podcast.
Dude, I think you've just hit it. It should be called the support room.
Oh my god, that's not bad.
We'll let other people decide. That's my suggestion. I'll throw that into the mix. But
yeah, I tell you what, we'll
the support
once,
call.
we've got some suggestions. We'll put it to a poll.
Yeah, I'm thinking the support call. That's my.
I like that. I quite like unscripted.
It's an idea, but it shows the relaxing and the laid back and the fun parts that can be done in the server. Once a month or something like that. We can come in here. This is just an idea to throw out there, but you could give some funny scenarios also in the server, just to get funny reactions from people on the go. I've seen Steve do some wild things. I think it would be funny to everyone get to see it or something like that.
Well, I tell you what, that's not a bad idea. Like, we might fish out a selection of funny stuff from the last week, maybe, to put in here as well. Almost some of our upcoming highlight videos, for example.
Yeah, it just gives it a sense of how relaxed. You might get a couple of people that even see the podcast and go, "Hey, I want to join that server." So we can always just keep posting the links everywhere. We got the TikTok, the Instagram, all that good stuff, the Twitters.
So in other words, we'll be completely unscripted, but we might have segments.
This is true. Segments is fine, but you go to the segments, it's not going to be scripted. It's like, all right, Twitter. Oh, Twitter's going pretty good.
I like how we're developing the ideas right here in the same support call.
Yes, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, with that, I think let's bring this to an end. I don't know how to do one, and I certainly don't know how to end one, so I don't know if we all just say bye and wave it at the camera slowly or something, but...
I think what we should just have one of those like fade to black moments where we're all just freezing, like the proper old 80s sitcom.
Oh my god.
Or maybe like a Looney Tunes exit. It's just like, that's all, folks.
I think it's worth coming up with a nice outro for Atro Citizens podcast.
Adverts with Raid Shadow Legends. That's
Yeah,
how they
listen,
all.
no,
All right,
Raid Shadow
thank
Legends.
you for sponsoring this. Raid Shadow Legends. Just pop it up.
Listen,
That's-
don't be too surprised. It could happen. I've got one sitting on Stream Elements I should probably roll out at some point.
Oh my god.
True, it's true. I actually
Just have a wee
have
bit of
I've got
content
the same
in the
thing, I just
background.
never did it. Oh yeah, Quasi, that's right. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whack that notification bell for more. Oh, and sub on us with Twitch Prime. That's a free sub every month. Use it on us. We're good people. Why don't we do that? Anyway,
Just don't listen to that guy Quasi. There's
See.
something about him that's off. Love him to death though.
We say that until all three of us start streaming it, and then we all start fighting each other for the Twitch subs.
but
guys, you know-
Dude, I'll just start saying, I'll be like, yeah, don't sub to me. But we got two other guys over here that's worth it.
Guys, in
Just
all
let y'all battle
seriousness,
it out.
thank you very much for joining me. This was fun. And chat as well. You guys have been great. Sai, Quasi, Ragnar, and everybody else. I can't scroll all the way up the list. Well, I could, but I won't. But you know who you are. Thank you. But yeah, with that, we'll maybe do another one of these next weekend, next week. Maybe at the weekend, we might do 2 a week. We might throw just them together randomly and throw it on the Discord. That's just what it is. It's all new cool stuff. So with that, guys, thank you very much. And till next time.
bye bye.
Laters.
Bye-bye.